Good morning and welcome everyone in the chamber and those listening online to the business of the Growth Scrutiny Committee. My name is Councillor Sam French and I am the chairman of this committee. Councillor Reuben Robinson, vice chairman, is also present. The audio-visual feed of this formal public meeting is being broadcasted live via the County Council's website, and all your comments will remain accessible online. There's no fire drill planned for this morning. In the event of a fire alarm sounding, please leave the chamber, exit the building through the reception, and assemble in the front car park. Please have any mobiles, laptops, and iPads on silent mode. The hearing loop is now activated. Requests to speak will be collated by the vice chairman. Please indicate early when you wish to speak. And we'll now move on to the formal agenda. First of all, apologies for absence.
We've received apologies from Councillor Hastings, who's replaced by Councillor Bailey Robinson for this meeting only, and we've received apologies also from Councillor Baxter, who's replaced by Councillor Mrs Overton for this meeting only. Thank you.
Thank you. And on to declaration of members' interests. This is an opportunity for members to declare any pecuniary interests. Is there anybody who wishes to declare a pecuniary interest? I'll take that as no. On to the minutes of the last meeting. This item is to approve and sign the minutes of the last meeting as a correct record. Please turn to pages 5 to 16 of the agenda pack. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Bailey Robinson, and a seconder? Councillor Condor. We'll now vote. Please raise your hand in favour. And that's basically unanimous. So we will continue on to the announcements by the chairman and the executive councillors. I have no announcements today as we've got a very busy agenda. I would like to remind officers that reports are to be taken as read and just summarise the key points and what input is expected of the committee in relation to each report. Finally, to give all members an equal opportunity to address officers, I ask that questions are succinct. Thank you. Are there any executive announcements from Liam Kelly, the Councillor for Growth, or Trevor Bridgewood?
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, officers and fellow councillors. It's been a very busy period of reconnaissance, building up a knowledge of what's important for promoting growth in our great county. We've held meetings with business partnerships, including the Lincolnshire Chamber of Commerce, the Federation of Small Businesses, Lincoln Business Investment Group, and Team Lincolnshire, which all have demonstrated a desire of the business community to work with the council. We've held various meetings with the food sector, the UK Food Valley Brunch at the Lincolnshire Show, visits to Magnavale Refrigeration Super Warehouse, visits to the Hull Beach Food Enterprise Zone, which show and demonstrate that our food, research and development and manufacturing sectors are extremely very strong, and indeed leading the nation in food innovation. And the council has proudly played an important role in reinforcing that strength. I have, and the team have visited colleges and universities, and they show that we've got quality education training and innovation providers who really care about their businesses and training facilities. We've been to Rise Home College and Rise Home Park, again demonstrating real innovation in the agri sector, supporting and future-proofing the future of farming. Lincolnshire is leading the way in agri. As well as my own opinion, the proof of the pudding is in always what others think of us and our activities. And I'm delighted that we have agreed 2 deals for land sales, one in Horncastle and one in Skegness, which shows that the council's role in de-risking land for commercial development is valuable, and our career work has recently won a regional award for having the biggest impact. However, the reconnaissance period has identified a number of challenges that do hinder growth. And we, Reform UK are going to tackle that. The top three so far are: first, red tape, especially in the planning system, which will require us to look internally at our own processes and approach to planning, and externally with lobbying government to better changes and simplification of the planning rules in order to support growth, innovation and prosperity, ultimately all benefiting the local council taxpayer. Secondly, training contracts being let out of county, which needs us to think differently so that our training providers get the money that they need in order to invest and subsequently grow. A Lincolnshire first approach to contracts and procurement management, ensuring Lincolnshire is the ultimate beneficiary to council expenditure. Monies, funds and grants that come into the council is spent in Lincolnshire by Lincolnshire-based companies and staff. And that is the Lincolnshire first approach that we will be adopting. Thirdly, we must do more to raise the profile of the excellent work that we do. There are countless numbers of quality good news success stories that have gone unnoticed, which we must promote to demonstrate the opportunities available to the business community and industry leaders in Lincolnshire and those thinking to invest in Lincolnshire. This approach will reinforce the message that Lincolnshire is a county of success, with business leaders driving growth and prosperity through innovation and a desire to succeed, all of which is underpinned by a good support network involving the council. Businesses succeed, Lincolnshire succeeds, the council has succeeded. Other activity. We've held the first meeting with the Mayor's Business and Infrastructure Board, where we agreed to create an infrastructure strategy, and we agreed to strengthen a relationship with Homes England, both of which will increase investment into barriers to growth. Meetings with councillor colleagues about the town boards in Boston, Lincoln, Skegness and Spalding. We've agreed that we'll work hard with district council colleagues and others on making the right investment decisions with the funding that government has provided them. On to veterans matters. We are scoping the implementation of a free travel scheme to help unemployed veterans in receipt of universal credit to travel to job interviews and other job hunting activities by providing them with a preloaded bus pass allowing up to 50 journeys. This scheme has already worked successfully in Gloucestershire, and council officers are currently engaging with Lincolnshire bus operators, Gloucestershire County Council and the Department for Work and Pensions to explore the detail and powers that they use to implement the scheme. And lastly, on veterans, the veterans villages. We in Lincolnshire County Council will hold a symposium with many stakeholders from the veterans community, the National Health Service, the Royal British Legion, SAFA, combat stress and training providers and developers, etc., to identify the requirements necessary to support a variety of veterans' needs in a community-type setting supported with appropriate accommodation, infrastructure and resources. The purpose for the symposium is so that we get it right from the off, investing time and efforts into the 7 Ps and creating the conditions for success. Finally, we will get new businesses, new industries, new funding streams and routes to revenue into Lincolnshire. We will grow current businesses footprints and support innovation and provide local authority assurance in the commercial and agri and defence spaces. And we will keep current businesses who may be struggling and provide them with support to enable them to grow in their spaces. So our grow mantra going forward is get, keep and grow. And you will hear more of those as we go forward. But I would just like to remind everybody here that we all have a responsibility for growth. Everything we do in all departments is interlinked and mutually supports growth. We must all adopt a more proactive, flexible, can-do attitude towards growth. And I would encourage all officers and councillors to self-reflect at the end of the day and ask themselves about their activities that they have conducted that day and how they have supported growth and how they could potentially do things better. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Inspires a bit of hope, if anything, and I'm glad to see you've done so much behind the scenes since the last meeting, so fantastic. We've got a question from Councillor Corey.
Thank you, Chairman. I refer you to one of your opening comments where you said that we were supposed to keep our questions succinct and take all the papers as read. It would have been nice had that party political broadcast been presented on an email so we can read it in our own time, bearing in mind that the portfolio holder has hogged the first 10 minutes of the meeting. So I do note that he nicked a reference from President Kennedy about what have you done to promote growth today, and I also commend him on his acceptance that for the past 20 years Lincolnshire County Council has actually promoted growth and promoted economic development very well. So next time he wants to make a party political broadcast, can he do so in his own time? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. And Councillor Overton.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that, those comments. You did say UK reform is going to, but we are a council, so presumably you mean the council is going to, which would include those that are not in the UK reform group. It might seem pedantic, but actually for those of us that are elected and want to support the work of the council, to benefit our residents, you know, we would like not to be excluded. That would be helpful. And I think, as we all know, the business plan and all of the, you know, the key things that the council does has to be agreed by full council, because it is full council who is responsible. The budget and the business plan, those things have to go through full council because of that. The other thing on the question, I understand the drive for increased growth to make life better for residents, which I think was the point. Is there an issue when it comes to solar on farmland? Because one could argue that that's development, but clearly it does not benefit our residents. I don't know if you have a resolution to that, or are we saying that we want the right kind of growth in the right places? Thank you.
Would you like to respond, Councillor Kelly?
In regards, first of all, sorry, I'll just reiterate the point in regards to councillors. We all have a vested interest, all councillors, all stakeholders have a vested interest into growth. The Reform UK, our approach is get, grow, keep within this council. So apologies if that was misinterpreted, but we all collectively here, regardless of colour, all have a part to play in that growth approach. So thank you for that. In regards to solar farms, that is a different matter which we can discuss at another committee, but you know, from my emphasis and from from the council going forward, there has been a lot of work that has gone in the past. However, there is always room for improvement, which we intend to do as a result of the observations we have seen to date in the last 100 days, so to speak. So we will be getting, growing and keeping going forward. But the key thing for that approach going forward has to be underpinned and reinforced through having a more proactive approach to growth, to having a more flexible approach to growth, and to having a more, I would say, unified and well-communicated approach to growth. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to follow up, so not every growth, but I think we're hearing the growth that helps our communities, the right growth in the right places. I think that's what I'm hearing, I hope. Thanks.
Thank you. Was there a question? No, okay. Okay, we're going to move on. Are there any senior officer announcements? No? On to the main agenda, starting with the proposed property rationalisation programme. This pre-decision scrutiny report can be found on pages 17 to 42. The paper outlines the Council's 3-year property rationalisation programme and seeks approval for the planned disposal of selected properties. It includes assets at various stages of review, highlights those with the highest potential revenue savings and capital receipts, and summarises rationalisation activity over the past 5 years. The report will be considered by Executive on the 2nd of September 2025. The actions of this committee required are to consider and comment on the contents and determine whether we support the recommendations to the Executive as set out in the report, and that we pass our comments to the Executive in relation to this item. There will be a report presented by Mark Eyre, Head of Strategic Asset Management, and Estates Anastasia Sotnikova, Senior Project Manager Transformation. Over to you, Mr. Eyre and Ms. Sotnikova.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to briefly summarise the report and its contents to refresh members and audience members as well. So the Property Rationalisation Programme, it was established with 3 key objectives: increase revenue savings across the Council's property estate, generate capital receipts, and reduce underutilised property and land. Generating capital receipts were available. Rationalisation activities to date, just to draw to attention to people here today, is that we've, since 2021 up until the end of financial year 2025, we've disposed of 81 properties as a corporate property team. That's generated £19 million worth of receipts. It's demonstrated in Table 1 as a financial breakdown, but also as a breakdown in Table 2 in the report. By service area. With the recommendations in the report, this figure will considerably increase, so we're adding to that total, we're not just standing still. Proposed rationalisation programme, we've earmarked 76 properties overall. Some of these have already been earmarked for disposal, others are likely to require a review, various stages when it comes to either an options appraisal or a business case related to them. For those sort of options appraisals, we consider a number of points to go through just to satisfy ourselves that disposal or other use is suitable. So financial, legal, service impact, wider impacts across the locality. The majority of the properties will be considered individually, because they stand alone in their own merit. However, some will be subject to a strategy, which will be brought through the committee process. So asset classes such as windmills and traveller sites will be brought forward separately. The proposed programme, if it was fully realised in its totality, would generate £16.6 million worth of receipts and £1.6 million worth of revenue potential savings per annum. The future for rationalisation, it will not stand still with that list, it will always be added to. So the corporate property team has a service asset management plan process where we actively look for underutilised properties that can be repurposed, so that will benefit the programme of rationalisation where we can add to and make more efficient use of service properties, but also through area reviews. So we look at localities based on boroughs and districts within the county, and we look at sort of amalgamation of services, or where there's economies of scale that can be made, not to the detriment of service provision, but more for the point of making service efficiency. To conclude, the recommendations are outlined in the full report. As outlined, Growth Scrutiny are requested to consider these and are invited to provide any additional comments. The main element of the recommendations in the main report requests delegation to the Deputy Chief Executive in consultation with the Executive Councillor for Growth for the ability to dispose of properties already earmarked for disposal. and that if the outcome of a review or an appraisal of those properties outside of that categorisation outlines disposal, but that the same delegation is made. As I said earlier, exceptions to this are where we have certain property categories which are basically quite specialist in their nature and need to be considered as a categorisation. These include windmills and traveller sites. That's the end of my presentation. I'd welcome any questions.
Thank you. First question from Councillor Condell.
What investigation has been done or is done into the future needs for Lincolnshire County Council? I just want to ensure we're not disposing of something we may have a future need for. And on top of that, when you're looking at this, have you liaised with the Mayor's office to ensure that they are aware of things that we may be disposing of?
First part of the question, I'd just refer back to in the presentation and give a bit more information on it. So our service asset management plans are bespoke to each service. So that's a strategic asset management planning document which highlights the needs and requirements in terms of resource for each property, each service in their properties for the next 5 to 10 years. It's basically a forecast of their needs, and we plan around those services. So they have their strategic service plans as a property resource. We then plan the property resource around that. So it's got to be elastic to change because there's always things that happen, but we have that forward plan. So we're not fettering our ability to provide services within the county, but we're also making the most out of efficiency for those services. When it comes to mayor consultation, there's definitely, that's a developing piece. I feel like as part of this process, they will have their own property requirements. As I would say as well with local government reorganisation, if that does become a reality, there will be an overlap in terms of rationalisation and service provision for districts. So that is something that we will start to plan for over the coming year into the next few years, really.
Councillor Dyer, please.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, thank you for publishing this report into Part A, the sections that you can. I think, as I put in my email, I'm pleased that that's now in the public domain. Just so I can get my head around it, the committee are looking at this report, and obviously it's going to executive in September, and it's to approve the 3-year plan, and that's going to delegate all decisions in respect to the disposal planned to the Deputy Chief Executive in consultation with the executive member. And it's a similar recommendation for the other properties as well, with the acceptance that, as Mark just mentioned within his statement, windmills and traveller sites will come back to the committee for further scrutiny. Just so I can get my head around it, so can we just confirm as members this is our only opportunity to scrutinise the disposal of just short of 80 council properties that's in this plan, minus the windmills and the traveller sites? This is the only opportunity that we have to scrutinise these decisions. That's my first question, Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, this is the intention, is that so as to be able to continue with the rationalisation programme, like we've seen over the last 4 years, we've disposed of a number of property assets, generating those capital receipts, which were taken in a similar vein through a chief officer decision. So going forward, we thought this was the opportunity to bring this to the Scrutiny Committee and Executive to look at the plan looking forward to 3 years ahead. Giving it that extra level of scrutiny as we go forward, but welcome comments if we feel there are further categories that might want to come forward through for decision. We earmarked windmills and travellers sites, given there's several properties and the nature of them, and being cross-cutting across different communities and impact and such, was from our recommendation from reviewing the properties. So see this as a progress from the approach over the last 4 years to give some level of scrutiny at committee.
Did you have a supplementary?
I've got a few supplementaries, Chairman, if that's okay. Just in respect to that, then, I thank you for the response. I'm just concerned about the lack of detail in the report as to how the council has arrived at the decisions for all of these properties. Minus windmills and traveller sites, I accept that's coming back to committee. I appreciate you've said there's a strategic document that guided you to get to this. I don't think it's proper that this hasn't all been put to committee, because we've just got one appendix with a few bullet points listed to the side of each property. And I don't know in good conscience how the committee could approve that. But just turning to page 31 of the report, it mentions that the revenue savings are based on the 2023-2024 figures from Business World On, but the report itself admits that these may be miscoded and are under review. So can I just ask, how reliable are the projected £1.6 million savings if the underlying data is still yet to be validated?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. We have got work to do in terms of sort of broadly across the piece, looking at the revenue for these properties, but they are we are confident there's accuracy. It's just a bit of more of a formal review. What will be helpful to inform the figures is more of a average across years as opposed to just 1 year. I feel, from my perspective, I like to see more of an average, and that's what we're going to be able to present as part of renewed sort of figures as part of executive. But I'm confident that they will be they'll be accurate.
Thank you, Joe. And obviously, you're confident, but the report doesn't. As you say, it's mentioned that there is that degree of unreliability in the data there. The disposal costs on page 24 are estimated at around 1 to 2% of gross receipts, but there's no sensitivity analysis provided. So what contingency is in place if disposal costs exceed the estimates, or if market conditions aren't suitable for selling some of the properties listed?
Generally speaking, 1 to 2% is an accurate figure for disposal costs. If, when it came to looking at a property for disposal, the disposal costs were going to be higher than that, that would be presented as part of a business case. So if there are costs which are required to dispose of a property, we do our thorough research to make sure that that is considered as part of the decision to actually dispose. We wouldn't leave sort of uncertainty when it comes to costs which are easy to be established as part of that. So we do our research as part of business case presentation as to appropriate costs and how we would mitigate that as part of the sale process.
Okay, thank you for that, Chairman. And then significant...
Sorry, Councillor Dyer. We've kind of bridged from the first question, so could I come back to you and go to somebody else right now?
One more, Chairman, is that okay? Just one more.
I'll just come back to you if that's okay.
Just one more.
Is it related to that question you just asked?
It's very much related to that question.
Okay, I'll allow it.
If we're going to be disposing of these properties, and that's fine, it's something that the council's done over the last few years, what due diligence is in place to make sure that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands in terms of the administration's priorities? So, for instance, county lines gangs, for instance, I know when we've tried to sell properties before, there's been potential interest with county lines. Also, if it's against the council's priorities, so where we're selling pockets of land, for instance, what due diligence do we take to make sure that they're not going to be covered in solar, for instance? And finally, I know with disappointment, the office block around the corner is on that list as well. I thought we were getting staff in-house, Chairman, but clearly not. We're selling off a big office block. So one concern that I have is that what can we do to prevent some of these larger facilities falling into the hands, for instance, of the Home Office, where, for instance, a nice large building in an urban area, is that potentially going to fall into their remit to be used for temporary accommodation, for instance, for asylum seekers in central Lincoln? I'm just curious to know what the council does in respect to making sure these properties don't fall into the wrong hands.
As part of our recommendations, when we receive an offer or offers, we will present details around those offers. So we will do investigations for each potential purchaser. Basically, their financial status. Are they able to actually uphold and go through with a contract of sale? But also, what are their proposed uses for the property? And we'll get a thorough understanding of that, and we'll make that clear as part of the recommendation. So we'll do our homework on any body who comes forward as a potential purchaser, and that decision can then get made as part of the final decision-making process, which we're requesting within the report to be delegated.
I think Councillor Kelly would like to have some input on this one.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to provide suitable levels of reassurance to the committee that the approach that's being adopted does provide a layered level of controls within the process, so that myself, the Executive for Resources, and also the lead officer scrutinise all aspects of the property that's being sold, ensuring we get value for money. And where there's potential or emerging risks where it may be used as a home for multiple occupancy, etc., or where the usage may change, we will insist that there's appropriate covenants put inside the documents and deed documents, etc., that restrict the use, or the property or asset, comes back to the council accordingly. But that level of, those levels of controls will ensure best value for money for the council taxpayer, and also ensure appropriate use of that facility or land infrastructure going forward. I do know of examples in the past where, a property or properties have been sold at a, where the best value for money wasn't achieved for the council taxpayer, and indeed where the said property was rented back to the council, with the business owner actually recovering the full outlay of the cost of the premises within 2 years of the rent received from the council. So these type of past examples will not be repeated again, because of the level of detail that we've gone into, and also the level of controls that we will have in place. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. The Vice Chair would just like to have some input as well on this one.
Sorry, just a question connected very much to that. There was a situation in one council, which I won't mention, but it was a certain sale of council-owned properties being sold at, one of them was 14 times less than market value, to then be used for a private HMO project, which residents around the area obviously didn't want. People were also concerned to find out that the property was actually not put on the market, freely advertised, and it was also due to a Freedom of Information Act that residents actually found out more information about the sale. So I want to know, firstly, how are these properties actually valued? And once they are sold, will this information regarding both the price of the property being sold and the use of these buildings be published? I know obviously at that time it will be too late, but at least people will be able to find out the ins and outs of it. Thank you.
Yep, just a bit of an ability to sell my team. So my team are staffed by registered valuers who are chartered surveyors. They undertake property valuations on behalf of the council each year. So the initial value starts with them in terms of their opinion of value. As part of the disposal process, we'll obviously go to, we usually go to about 3 agents just to get their opinion of marketing price ranges, which fits within that category. So we've got that opinion of professional value. The agents will also be chartered surveyors, and they'll have their professional value opinion as well. We then market. It's subject to market demand, so there may have to be reductions, but that reflects the true market price. Reductions aren't made lightly, and certainly if there was a reduction along the lines of what you just described, Vice Chair, I think we'd probably have to stop and review. When it comes to publication of the actual end sale price, that is publicly available information through land registry. So basically when you buy or sell property, the price is going to be there. Everybody can see it. So it is publicly available. And if there's, I think, an opportunity to come back to this committee and present some of the work we've done, we can certainly showcase some of the disposals we've carried out as part of this recommended programme and the price achieved.
I think especially with some of the bigger projects, it'd be nice to bring back rather than all of them. Thank you. Councillor Corey, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Further to Councillor Condell's excellent question and Mark's answer when he touched on public service delivery needs following local government reorganisation, I am actually concerned that these future needs post-LGR are not significantly embedded in this paper, and I'm concerned, as is Councillor Dyer, that there is a lack of detail and foresight for post-LGR, and I would like the horse to be put before the cart before I can support a paper of this magnitude. So what assurances will you give members that future needs are central to our strategic plans and not short-term headline-grabbing capital receipts?
I think as LGR develops, we'll certainly be making sure that the service overlaps. Service overlaps when it comes to sort of merging of services across the county are considered. It's still at that stage where we are identifying what the end result is with LGR.
Andrew, did you want to say something before?
I might preempt Andrew's answer, but that has only reinforced my concern that the cart is before the horse. We need to be looking at those things now before we start getting rid of strategic properties. What assurances can you give that post-LGR needs are embedded in something, a strategic document like this, not the things that are emerging? We need to be looking at these things now. LGR probably will happen, so why are we spinning off these properties before we know what we're going to need? If we do know what we're going to need, I'd like to see that now before I put my hand up to support a paper like this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the supplementary information. So certainly as part of LGR, the property has a dedicated work stream on that. We are proactively working with all the district councils to identify all of their assets, the size of them, who's in them, and such that we can bring together a comprehensive view of the, I suppose, estate across Lincolnshire, including district councils. The properties presented today, and as part of that plan going forward, a lot of those are I suppose, already known not to be subject to requirement as a result of LGR. Whilst there might be some, say, like Orchard House A, as was referred to earlier, some of those that might be from a future positioning of the council and building in assets and needs would come into that later on decision making that would get delegated as required in the report. But a lot, and that would come as part of that consideration. We've got the information from an asset perspective across the districts, and like you say, LGR may and may not happen, but the intention is very much that those presented today and those who would look to list are those that would not be, I suppose, essential strategic assets required as an outcome of LGR. So we're aware of the overall impact of that, and we work closely with the exec directors across the council as well as members around that consideration.
Thank you. Just very quickly, I would have liked to have seen that before this, and I'm sure other members would. Old returning members, not old, obviously, yeah. Returning members and those who are new to the green benches. Thank you, Andrew, but I still have concerns.
Yeah, we're still gathering that information through the LGR process at the moment for information, which is due to hopefully have it all by the end of July.
Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to see that we're cutting the fat and looking to do better deals than the previous administration, and I'm confident we'll get that with this administration from Councillor Kelly's assurance. The report states the property rationalisation programme will continue to identify new properties for review. What proactive strategies are being employed to identify underutilised assets earlier in their life cycle to maximise potential savings and benefits?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I basically refer back to the point I was making earlier. It's we do service asset management planning. So what happens as a result of that is that each service has that 5 to 10 year sort of forecast of their needs, and then we categorise those properties as an outcome of that planning. So some of those properties may need to be enhanced as a review to meet their service needs. So that could be a new addition, it could be an improvement to their facilities, but some of them may be reduced, i.e. they may not be required, or they could be amalgamated through examples such as public sector hubs. So you're amalgamating services and you're making it easier for the customer to experience use of those services. We also do area reviews which highlight sort of those opportunities potentially within districts where you can fit more things together under one roof as opposed to having multiple locations where service users might want to go and visit local sort of council services. So that's the sort of proactive approach we have that we hope to be able to improve service efficiency and also realise more potential rationalisation opportunities.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
I've got a question from Councillor Bowles.
Thank you, Chairman. Most of my questions have actually been asked already, but I've got a couple of points. I'd like to get a better understanding, obviously not today, if we can pick this up outside of the meeting, a better understanding of how properties have made it onto this list at this point. I can't speak for other areas, but you know, I see properties in my area that I have tried to get this council to dispose of. In my 8 years on this council, we've had various groups, community groups, who have wanted to take on this property. And I'll go back to what Councillor Kelly said earlier about red tape. Due to the red tape of this council, we've never been able to do it. Yet now it's on a disposal list because it's in absolute rack and ruin and is falling down because of willful neglect, I would suggest, of this council. So I'd like a bit of understanding about how things have got to this position and got onto this list. And then my second point again goes back to the reassurance that Councillor Kelly gave us about how we would monitor where these properties go and who they go to. I'd like to ask, will local members be not necessarily consulted on that, but will they be informed that, for example, the property I'm talking about, Longwood House in Gainsborough, if that is going to be disposed of, should I be notified that A, that's going to happen, and B, what the proposal is for that? Because take that one, for example, the only possible solution for that is for that building to be demolished. It is in absolute rack and ruin. I mean, several officers have been around that premises with me. So my question is, can local members be involved in this process when these properties are being disposed of to say, that isn't really what we want in our local area, you know, or this is great, let's, you know, get it done. So can that involvement happen as well?
Just identifying the first question, the answer for that, just how do they get on the list? So generally speaking, a service will have use of the property, and we'll, as a service ourselves, we actively review their uses. So I'm referring back to my points made earlier about how we strategically plan for property use. That will result in an outcome potentially where one of these properties on this list, if it was up for disposal already, we would the property user doesn't need it. We then review any other service users who may be able to use it, so we're not basically fettering our ability to supply a property to other services that need that type of property, and we're not incurring a cost of purchasing a property that's, you know, fits the bill that we've already got. So that's our sort of approach when it comes to how they get on the list. But also when it comes to local member consultation, that is now embedded in the process for disposal. So as a routine matter of course, we make sure that local members are consulted as part of the process we undertake, and they have the opportunity to feedback either through officers or through the executive council or however they choose. So it's not forgotten about.
Thank you. Councillor Overton.
Thank you. Actually, it was on a similar line. We had a pub in the village that was going to be sold off for housing, and we put in made it a community asset, so through the district council, so that the community could then purchase it. At least they got first choice, and they did manage to purchase it at a price set by the district valuer. So if there was more involvement with council laws, earlier, I think there would be an advantage. You know, there is a lot that the community can do, led by the councillor, which enables quite significant bringing in of local resources, both financially. We all put in £200, for example, you know, local resources financially and also in terms of management of the asset. So that was for a pub, but presumably it could be similar for other things as well. And I just wonder how much you're thinking about involving members from the outset. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say that community asset transfer is definitely an option when it comes to disposal of some of these properties. You know, it might not be suitable for all of them, but where there is a sort of a strong community link, that's not disregarded by officers at all. You know, it's often part of the options appraisals that we present and may present in the future for properties. And certainly if there's local councillors that are interested in the future of these properties, I'd welcome them to, you know, we've published the list today, so I'd welcome that sort of involvement. And we can consider the sort of comments and the sort of feedback from the community as part of the overall decision-making process that we're asking for delegation for.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chairman. Just like to reinforce the points made there by Councillor Overton, and we're also looking at trying to, you know, obviously maximise the, you know, the revenue we can get for the council taxpayer, but also we want to include another factor called social value. So if any community groups or trusts or whatever are looking to purchase a property that we put on the market, the sales will be traceable, transparent, etc. But we will consider community group offerings and prices, and we will apply a social value reduction based upon what the value of the future use of that property is going to be to the local community. You know, that's a key thing for our community, so that they benefit from these sales. But it's not all about money. It's about value for the community as well, and we value that, and that will be as part of our considerations going forward.
Thank you.
And a question from David East.
Thank you, Chair. And social value brings us to the point again about, I guess, windmills and the strategy with those. What's the strategy going to be? And can we be assured that you know, the relative other parties like heritage and tourism are involved in this kind of strategy going forward? Thank you.
Yep, we will be bringing forward a sort of a strategy on windmills once that's sort of gone through the officer sort of routine of decisions of how we present it. And absolutely, you know, we're not forgetting that there's a lot of stakeholders and people to be involved in when it comes to that, particularly heritage and community groups as well. So that will all be factored into the strategy and made clear, you know, where things have got to in terms of our sort of investigations around certain elements, so that members are informed.
David, Councillor East.
And you just kindly reminded me, there is one windmill that somehow had a 99-year lease applied to it. Can we have some clarification on how that happened going forward?
Yeah, certainly the particular mill will be in the windmill strategy, and we'll give the overview of the lease that was entered into in, I think, 2014.
Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Councillor East. That windmill will be discussed, and it will be captured within the next scrutiny committee. But I would just like to take the opportunity to reiterate that, you know, going forward, the methodology that was employed then will not be employed now. You know, the liabilities and future risk and financial liabilities exposure to the council on that decision will not, you know, will not be taken going forward. Everything we do will be in the best interest of the council. We will de-risk everything as much as possible, ensuring best value for money. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? One from Councillor Dyer.
One. just a couple. I think Councillor Kelly's just answered that in his response, actually. My question as a result of Councillor East's question was just on the windmill strategy. When are we expecting that to come to this committee? I think you said the next committee. Is that correct? Are we expecting that at the September committee, Chairman? And can I include in that question, sorry, the traveller sites as well? Are they both coming to September, or will it be a different committee?
Given the windmills would cover culture and property, it most likely go to Overview and Scrutiny Management Board as a result of that. I think our intention is for it to go to OSMB in September for a decision by executive in October for the windmills, Councillor Dyer. On the travellers one, we need to begin right in that, in all honesty. So we're much further on the windmills one. There's been a lot more activity over the past months and years with regards to some of our windmill sites. But you know, as soon as we finish this and get it through the officer approval process, we want to start and pick up the travellers sites one as soon as possible. So we'll look to be bringing that certainly within the next 6 months or so, but just need to get officers onto it as a priority.
Thank you for that. And just, Chairman, just a procedural question. It might be one for Democratic Services. In respect to these disposals, it will go through as an executive councillor decision, and Councillor Kelly's given some commentary on that. Will those decisions be open to member call-in? Because I appreciate it's coming to committee now, so does that mean that it null and voids the opportunity for call-in in 2 years' time, for instance, or will members have the opportunity to call these in?
Chiara?
Thank you very much. Just to confirm, the purpose of bringing items through scrutiny is to ensure that all elements and aspects of a decision are scrutinised thoroughly, in depth, transparently, and in the open forum to avoid a need for a decision to be called in. Now, if you are talking about individual decisions and whether they will need to come through scrutiny on an individual basis, that is something that we would have to look into with our legal team. Thank you.
Chairman, thank you. If I may, just as a result of this committee, because I appreciate we're going to put the recommendation, our view and our recommendations to the executive member, could I add an amendment then, please? And that this committee allows the call-in of any of these disposals within the life of this council. That's purely because I appreciate some of these are pockets of land, but some of these are huge buildings, and Councillor Kelly's given us his reassurance, and I'm grateful for that. But I still think that if this is the one and only time we've had to scrutinise these, given the limited information that we've had, given that Andrew's just mentioned that they haven't even put together the considerations together yet because of LGR, I don't think the report that's been put forward to committee is suitable for us to basically never have an opportunity to scrutinise these disposals again. So I don't think it's unreasonable to ask that the committee ask the executive to allow call-ins on any of these disposals over the next few years. And I'm sure Councillor Corey will second that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that. And this is something that I think all councillors with a property in their division or affecting their division would appreciate. Thank you. It's not a party political point. This is really a council point.
Okay, so we can take the proposal to a vote. But
Just a point of clarity, just for the accuracy of this, the motion that you are proposing and seconding is that each individual sale comes through scrutiny, or is then liable if it doesn't for call-in, subject to call-in. Is that what have I understood this correctly?
Yeah, I think given the scrutiny timetable, I appreciate the timeline might be difficult to fit them into scrutiny committees, but either a scrutiny committee or subject to member call-in.
okay, Councillor Kelly.
Yep. Councillor Dyer, I personally never have an issue with being held responsible for my decision-making process. So I personally don't have an issue in regards to, and I don't fully understand the meaning of the definition of call-in. So once I get that, I have no issues in considering it, as I believe we all should be held accountable for the decisions that we make but I will refer to the team behind there in regards to that going forward. But personally, I have no issues in regards to being, to being subject to scrutiny or being questioned about decision-making process.
Thank you. I think it's also important to remember back to the point earlier about red tape. And if we're putting more red tape in the way, that might then get in the way of growth.
Chairman, I accept that point, but I think all of this is, it's democratic oversight of decisions of large council properties. And often these decisions will go through your inbox and you will see them executive councillor decision. Often they're not called in. I don't think there's many call-ins, but it's just that opportunity, because I don't think this report is comprehensive enough for, in a couple of years' time, if there's a huge building being sold for several £1 million, I don't think it's unreasonable for councillors to want scrutiny on that. It's not about red tape, it's about democratic oversight.
Or building on no pun intended, the point that Councillor Bowles made, that if there's a property, an asset in his division, he'd quite like to be able to say, hang on a minute, we could do something better with that, or is this the right thing to do with this property? I don't think as members that that's red tape at all. I think that is democratic oversight, that's democratic accountability. If the portfolio holder doesn't have a problem with it, then why should the chairman of the scrutiny committee have a problem with it?
So you would want to vote on every single property, how it's been sold? And
Chairman, can I ask that somebody explains just to new members what a call-in is? I think my proposal isn't fair if members don't know what a call-in is. So could somebody please explain so that the committee knows?
While they prepare that explanation, Councillor Robinson would also like to say something.
If we just refer to page 27, it says, has local member been consulted? It says that the corporate property will consult with local members as part of that process to enable comment as part of that. So local members will be consulted on each of the properties. So just to clarify.
Yeah, just to clarify, it's comment. We'd just be invited to comment on it when we wouldn't be a decision maker.
Do we have the call-in explanation prepared? I think.
Chairman, can I propose we have an adjournment just whilst?
Yeah, let's take 5 minutes. Yeah. Welcome back to the meeting. After that adjournment, I'm going to go to Chiara to talk about the amendments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members, for affording us this extra time. So I am moving to the suggested proposal. As per Councillor Dyer's earlier request, which he proposed and it was seconded by Councillor Corey, I would like to read out the full motion, which is: it is moved that the committee supports the recommendation to the executive as detailed on page 20 of the report, with a caveat of recommendation 3 being rewarded. For clarity, I will read all the recommendations that are associated with the report that goes to executive. Recommendations: that the executive, number 1, notes the top 20 potential revenue savings at exempt Appendix A and 10 highest capital receipts outside top 20 highest revenue savings at exempt Appendix B. Number 2, approve the Council's 3-year property rationalisation programme as detailed as at exempt Appendix 3C. Number 3, the authority to take all decisions necessary to dispose of the properties identified in the property rationalisation programme as disposal planned, including determining the terms and conditions of each disposal and the entering into of all necessary legal agreements, remains with the Executive Councillor for Growth, and that those decisions that meet the threshold to be a key decision will be treated in accordance with the existing process and procedure identified in the Council's constitution. Moving on to number 4. Notes that the remainder of the properties identified in the property rationalisation programme, save for those referred to paragraph 6 below in the main body of the report, will each be subject of an options appraisal or review. Number 5. Subject to the Deputy Chief Executive and Executive Director for Resources in consultation with the Executive Councillor for Growth being satisfied that such option appraisal justifies the disposal, authorises the Deputy Chief Executive and Executive Director for Resources in further consultation with the Executive Councillor for Growth to take all decisions necessary to dispose of each remaining properties identified in the property rationalisation programme, save for those referred to in paragraph 6 below, including determining the terms and conditions of each disposal and the entering into of all necessary legal agreements. And number 6, notes that the separate strategy in relation to the properties detailed in the property rationalisation programme that concern traveller sites and windmills will be developed for the executive approval in due course. And moving on, coming back to the motion from this committee, it is asked that comments and elements of the debate that have been captured by myself, the scrutiny officer, be shared with the executive for their consideration as part of the consideration of this report on the 2nd of September. And we also ask that officers come back at a later date with future updates about individual projects. Thank you. You may now move to a vote.
Just, Chiara, just to clarify on the recommendations, thank you very much, by the way, for doing that. The disposal, I thought you were going to be amending recommendation 5 as well to reflect, because at the moment you've just amended, I've just amended properties that have got disposal planned, but I thought we'd mentioned future properties as well within this plan. That's only half of what I asked.
Yes, of course. What is reflected through recommendation 5 is entering into legal agreements and negotiating and making those decisions, and we wouldn't want to hinder any future ability to get consultation as into those.
So you've only done half of what I've asked then, is that correct?
I do apologise, it needs to be reworded as well. So, again, recommendation 5, Subject to the Executive Councillor for Growth being satisfied that such option appraisal justifies disposal, they are authorised to take all decisions necessary to dispose of such remaining properties identified in the Property Rationalisation Programme, save those referred in paragraph 6 below, including determining the terms and conditions of each disposal and the entering into of all necessary legal agreements. Thank you.
Councillor Overton, is that all right, Councillor Dyer?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for your patience, Chairman.
That's okay. Councillor Overton.
Thank you very much. I just wonder if it was also discussed and could be agreed that the councillor involvement. Now, we talked about councillor involvement, and it is in there that the local councillor will be consulted. But I think, could we just strengthen the words a little so that it would be a meaningful consultation, either from the outset or at the earliest possible stage? Thank you.
What
I think
do
it's
you
the
mean
intention.
by meaningful? Do you want to give the councillor more decision
Yes.
power? Is that what you mean?
Yes, I'm sure it's the intention. I just would like it written in writing in case something changes and people forget later on. So I think the intention is that, as I spoke earlier, that local members may be able to really bring in some extra resources and bring in some extra support to the process and bring a local benefit. And for that purpose, it would be useful if the local member was involved at a very early stage and also in a meaningful way. So it's not just an email that we're selling off this next week and you may or may not have missed it, but it's actually a discussion. This property clearly needs to be disposed of. As a local member, have you got some good ideas what we should do with it? So a bit of an engagement process, so that we would call that a meaningful engagement or meaningful consultation even. Thank you. It's just strengthening the wording a little by 2. Meaningful and early stage.
Chiara.
Thank you. That will be captured in the comments from this committee going to the executive for the consideration of this report in overall. We cannot be adding an additional recommendation into the report that goes into the executive. And what is the committee doing actively at this moment is it is proposing some alternative wording. It is captured and it will be reflected in the statement that goes to the executive on the 2nd. Thank you.
Chairman, can I ask, within your permission, if we can invite Councillor Gibson, because he made a comment to me during the whatever you want to call it, the intervening period, that I think we'll give you the assurance, Councillor Overton, that the administration will do that. Is he able to speak to give us that assurance?
If he would like to speak, I can grant him.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it is a discussion that Andrew and I have had. I want to make sure that does happen, Councillor Overton. I don't think it's something that we can put into the papers to change today, but I can give you an assurance from my side of it and from the officer's side that will be happening, and it will be a meaningful conversation with local members, if they want to, on buildings that are in their ward to see if they've got ideas of best areas to sell it to. So that will happen, that will be put in, and it certainly, Andrew has assured me, that will definitely be happening going forward. It might not have done over the last few years, but it will be doing now.
Thank you, that's perfect.
Thank you. Are there any more comments before we take a vote on this? Okay, we're going to vote on the proposal mentioned by Chiara. Raise your hand if you agree.
Just to be clear, for the record, this is on the amendment. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's unanimous. Vote. And now we can move on. On to the Adult Learning Provision 2024 to 25 and the plans for the 2025 to 26 academic year. The scrutiny report can be found on pages 43 to 62. The report outlines the context for adult skills and family learning programme and includes an update on progress towards 2025-2024 year targets. The report also provides a description of the programme planned for 2025-26 and presents proposals for launching a new employment and skills open framework to enable commissioning from the 26-27 academic year. Our actions are to acknowledge and recognise the achievements and successes of the Adult Skills and Family Learning Programme 2024-25, to discuss and affirm the strategic drivers, ambitions and curriculum design for the Adult Skills and Family Learning Programme, and to discuss and approve the continued development of a new employment and skills open framework to replace the current Adult Skills and Family Learning open framework to commission programmes from the academic year 26-27. We'll begin with an introduction by Justin Brown, Assistant Director of Growth, then move on to the presentation by Jenny Riordan, Principal Officer for Learning and Skills. Thea Croxall, Adult Learning and Skills Manager, and Leanne Fotherby, Commercial and Procurement Manager, are also in attendance for the debate. Over to you, Mr. Brown, then Ms. Riordan.
Morning all. I feel rather anticlimactic after the last 90 minutes. So yeah, thank you. So this paper is all about part of the employment and skills work that we do. You'll remember when we had the previous meeting, we talked about employment and skills and the fact that more than half of employers in the county tell us that their business is constrained by a lack of access to suitable skills. There's an appendix in the report which shows all of the different employment and skills programs that we are aware of today. And you'll see it's complicated, you'll see it's messy, and you'll see that there is a risk of duplication across those various programs. Most of those are commissioned by government, not by us. Where we are is at a threshold where we are now able to start to work with the Mayor's Office in terms of devolving some of that skills funding, some of that employment responsibility, to make things clearer for people who are undertaking training and make things clearer for businesses. So in that context, Jenny's going to talk to you about one of the items that we work on, the Adult Learning Programme, talk a little bit about what it's achieved so far, but particularly we're seeking your views around strategy for future, given that we are at this threshold moment of being able to see greater devolution of the money and to be able to unpack some of those confusions and duplications that I mentioned. So with that, Chairman, I shall hand over to Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to update you on the delivery of the Adult Learning Programme. The last update to Scrutiny from Adult Learning was back in July 2024. The report provides some background information on the Adult Skills Fund grant that Lincolnshire County Council receives from the Department for Education to deliver a range of learning programmes to adults in Lincolnshire. Eligibility for the Adult Learning Programme is set by the Department for Education, and the primary focus of the Adult Skills Fund is to support individuals in developing the skills needed to overcome barriers, improve their qualification levels, and secure and sustain employment. There are other programmes, as Justin outlined, which deal with direct delivery of the skills that businesses need and which provide careers advice. The Adult Learning Programme exists as one of many within this space, and wider detail on other programmes is provided in Appendix A. The strategic focus of the Adult Learning Programme has been to complement and fill gaps in provision across Lincolnshire, with a view to widening participation and supporting the local economy through the development of skilled labour to fill vacancies. You will note from the key data provided in section 1.5 of the report, as well as the dashboard provided at Appendix B, that we are meeting or exceeding the majority of our targets. Where we are underperforming, plans are in place to improve on this, for example, under-delivery against recruitment of learners in West Lindsey and North Kesteven. Some additional information is provided where we have been able to track a positive progression route for learners, demonstrating the impact of our learning programmes. The vast majority of our learners progress into further learning, which fits with the purpose of the programme as a first step to get people on the next stage towards employment, with around 7% moving directly into employment at the end of their learning programmes. The paper asks for your input on the strategic direction of the Adult Learning Programme. In section 1.6, I've highlighted a number of activities that we are particularly proud of in the current academic year. Of particular note is the strong partnership working with our subcontracted providers and Job Centre Plus that enables us to recruit high numbers of unemployed learners and help move them onto a positive outcome. I'd describe our strategic direction as filling gaps rather than competing with local providers, working with community groups to engage with those people who would benefit from the programme and moving people along their journey back to gaining a job. To raise awareness and increase participation in our programme, we are delighted with the success of our first Grow Your Skills event in Sleaford in May, which was delivered in partnership with DWP, and it was attended by both learning providers and employers and resulted in some positive referrals into our learning programmes. In 25-26, we are planning 5 further events, including in Skegness to coincide with the end of the tourist season and in Spalding to coincide with the annual jobs fair. I've included with the paper in Appendix C a dashboard outlining our planned programme for the 25-26 academic year, along with a list of some of our courses to give you a flavour of what is planned. You will note that LCC has been awarded additional funding to deliver qualifications up to level 3 across Greater Lincolnshire. For 25-26, 86% of our planned delivery will be carried out by subcontractors based in Greater Lincolnshire. Finally, as outlined in the paper, in preparation for managing the Devolved Adult Skills Fund on behalf of the Combined Authority, work has commenced to develop a new procurement framework. This will comply with the 2023 Procurement Act and provide a system to identify trusted suppliers and streamline call-off responses within this landscape. Members' approval to continue the development of the new Employment and Skills Open Framework is appreciated. Members of the committee are invited to review and comment on the 24-25 Adult Learning Programme, offer any approaches to increasing awareness of the Adult Learning Programme at a local level, and approve the continued development of the new Employment and Skills Open Framework. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. We'll go on to questions and comments and discussion. Councillor Dyer.
Thank you very much for the report, Jenny, and it's amazing to read, particularly the successes on page 50, and Ofsted's comment is fantastic. So that's a great commendment to you and your team and all the work that you do. And this is not just about spending money on upskilling people, it's about investing in our population. So the more we spend and the more we do this, the better. Just 2 questions, if I may, Chairman. On your recommendation, it was one thing I emailed Justin actually during the election campaign. I was speaking to a lady who, she was a veteran, left the armed forces, and all she wanted to do was upskill with her IT skills. And I think she was in contact with the DWP in Lincoln, and they weren't able to provide any courses. I was able to email Justin. He might have signposted me. I think one of you might have sent me the email that actually I was able to send to this individual a list of training courses that were on offer for her to do, which was amazing and fantastic. So my question as a result of that is, are we doing everything we can to ensure that the DWP are aware of what is on offer and what training courses are available? Because for that lady, she obviously didn't know about those IT courses. So what are we doing to make sure the DWP are aware of everything that we offer? And are we maximising social media, etc., just to highlight the training courses and I forgot my word, and skills programs that we offer? So what more can we do in respect to that? And finally, just on page, I will find it, within the report, it just mentioned the funding and the impact of some of the funding changes. I haven't quite got my head around the new relationship with the Mayor being involved now, but I believe the report notes a 6% national cut for adult skills funding, and that will impact tailored learning, and that's the strand that is most used by the disadvantaged learners. So my question would be, what projected reduction are we expecting to have in learner numbers because of that cut in funding, if any? I don't know whether there's more funding coming from somewhere else to make up that shortfall. Thank you.
Jenny?
That's a lot of questions. So in terms of the relationship with DWP, we work closely with the local partnership manager to ensure that we have and continue to have strong relationships. I think we'll recognise that there's still work to be done in improving those and ensure that information is trickling down to the right people, as with your constituent. Social media, we have increased our reach on social media over the last year in terms of our To Aspire accounts. Again, that has increased over the last year. That needs more work and more support. And in terms of the funding cut, so yes, we have received a 6% funding cut to the tailored learning, as you rightly say. That has meant that it has resulted in a slight reduction in the number of learners that we anticipate being able to support. We have received an increase in qualification funding. So that financially on the top line level has offset that amount. And in terms of how we're looking at what programmes can be supported through which funding stream, it's been a slight shift in balance to ensure that the people who need the tailored learning support are getting that.
Thank you. Councillor Bowles.
Thank you, Chairman. One day I'll get in front of Councillor Dyer so he don't ask my questions first. I'll declare an interest first, Chairman, as Chief Exec of Gainsborough Trinity and a trustee of our foundation. We're obviously mentioned as a provider within the paper. So I'll just declare that, and obviously through that role and can see and witness the good work that this programme does deliver. And we did see obviously an award winner at the Lincolnshire show through that programme, which was great to see. But that brings me to the point that Councillor Dyer's made about promoting it. I'm still amazed at how few people know about what's going on. I know that's something for the foundation itself. They are really trying hard to, just across the board in everything they do, bring their social media and media presence forward. So hopefully that will help, but I still think there's a lot more that in partnership, the council and the providers can do to raise awareness of what's going on. I was going to ask about the funding, so I'll not do that again. But my other question and concern really is, do you notice an increase in demand in areas such as Gainsborough for this provision due to the fact that the secondary school in Gainsborough has been in special measures for 15 years? Are you noticing that we're getting far more requests for things like maths and English GCSEs at a later date because so many children are not getting those when they leave school? And I know it's a whole different debate about the school and all the rest of it, but if kids aren't getting them at the right time and then having to do them at a later time, I'll take it up again. Now we've got a new, executive for education. But what pressure can we put on as a council to ensure that children are getting those qualifications at the right time and not needing to access your programme? Thank you.
Jenny?
So in terms of specifics on demand, I don't have that information to hand. I'd be happy to look into that and send over some supplementary information if that's all right. I think Thea would like to.
Hello, thank you. Just a couple of comments from me. We recognise fully that some of our residents aren't aware of the opportunities through the adult learning programme. As Jenny said, there's a lot of work going on in the background with regards to social media to help widen that reach. We've got devolution of the Adult Skills Fund from 1st of August 2026, and one of the aspirations is through working with the Mayor's office and that department that there will be much bigger opportunities for that, shouting loud and proud about what we do to ensure, as you say, we reach other residents who will benefit from the programme. With regards to English and maths, absolutely take your point of view, and that Jenny's saying she'll go away and get some more information. We do also have a sister department within the County Council called Inspire You, who provide English and maths qualifications for the 16 to 18 cohort who possibly haven't got their English and maths at school. So if you would like some information on that, we can provide that with the meeting minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. On to Councillor Corey.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your excellent paper and your answers to the previous questions. And particularly thank you for working with veterans. As a county, Lincolnshire has many veterans and serving members of the armed forces. I know that where we work with many veterans support charities doing amazing work. I didn't see it in there. I didn't see a specific list. Apologies if it's in there. But could I ask that you make sure that you also work with Fighting with Pride, because they support veterans who've got specific needs that aren't being met through the other veterans charities. So if you could find them and reach out to them, they really could do with some, they do a lot of really good work, and I would like them adding to your list, and they've got a niche offer that I think that our veterans could do with. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, just to confirm, yes, we'll follow up on that.
All right, on to Councillor Robinson.
Thank you very much. Two questions, if I may. So I think the current struggle with many who are unemployed and looking for better career opportunities is the fact that every employer asks for experience and achievements as well as qualifications. How is progression data, for example, actual sustained employment and salary increases, used to continuously refine the curriculum and delivery methods to ensure the best possible service outcomes for learners, including work experience opportunities?
So we have an internal learning board, and Samantha, who you met last time, chairs it, Head of Economic Development, and therefore very, very focused on the needs of business. So she puts a lot of challenge into the period each springtime where we set the curriculum, which we then go out and seek to procure. Separately, Councillor Kelly and I have had two very sort of detailed strategy conversations about employment and skills. First one referring to the question which was raised about social media and awareness, because as Councillor Kelly said in his introduction, we do a lot of really good things and people don't necessarily know about them, and I think Councillor Bowles reinforced that with his question. The second piece that Councillor Kelly and I have been talking about is how we look at all of the different employment and skills programs and really say which are the ones that will fit which box. So one of the things that I'm getting a sense of from the conversation that's taken place today and other conversations we've had is that we shift a bit of our focus into that progression into employment ladder. We're seeing the business community really, really struggle in terms of recruiting staff, recruiting skilled staff as well. And we are also seeing our providers working in an environment which has got various government funding schemes which are more about employment support and getting people into jobs. So on the one hand, there's the push from people like me and Samantha saying, let's shift some of the curriculum, and we welcome your comments around that. On the other hand, there's the pull, which is that the funding is just changing a bit to be a bit more employment focused. So I would hope that we will see a greater focus on skills for employment. But as Jenny said in her intro, this programme is about that very early stage on the career journey, and there are other things that we will seek to shift and change into the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Just want to say, so how does the programme intend to specifically address the 167,000 economically inactive residents, particularly those out of work due to long-term sickness or looking after family, to bring them into the workforce and make the local economy as efficient as possible?
Thank you for that question. So, as Justin outlined, it is a first steps programme. Indications from the Learning Work Foundation are that when adults engage with learning, they're more likely to re-engage and progress further within learning. So the role our programme plays is very much those early stages introductory courses that can lead on to vocational qualifications or essential skills such as English, maths and digital. We also do have a small health and wellbeing element that again supports with some of those sort of wider barriers to bring people back into that learning environment and to build confidence so that they're then ready to take those next steps either with us or with one of the other providers across the area. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Condell, if it's not been answered already.
Congratulations on the work that you're doing. It looks quite amazing. I've really just got one question, and that's over the eligibility there. I've seen on the paper there that you're saying that it's open to people from the UK. Does that mean that the education you're doing through this is open to anybody in the UK, or is it restricted to people within Lincolnshire? It's more of an information question than anything else.
Yeah, thank you. So our funding is for the current academic year, just for Lincolnshire, but as Jenny said, for the new academic year starting on the 1st of August for Greater Lincolnshire, and it is restricted to people who live, as you say, in Greater Lincolnshire. So our strategic plans are for the benefit of people who live in the county and for the businesses who we serve.
Great.
Yeah,
thank
you.
Thank you. And Councillor Overton.
Thank you very much. And again, congratulations. I mean, who wouldn't give their right eye to have a 98% satisfaction rate? It's fantastic. So thank you very much for that. There are just a few questions, if I might. One is a point really is also, you refer to the Mayor's Office, but I think you might mean the Greater Lincolnshire Combined County Authority, which is a big mouthful. We ought to have another shortcut for that. But but the Mayor's Office is just a Mayor's Office, isn't it? It's separate. So it might be quite, we'll have to find another shorthand for the whole mouthful. So thanks for that. I think, secondly, the unemployment rate, and this is probably Justin's question, you mentioned there's 24,000 in Lincolnshire, but what is that percentage compared to the whole? And I suppose we also now have to look at the whole area. So I'm just wondering, is this a big problem that we're aiming to solve in terms of employment? But we're also, as you rightly recognise, trying to increase skills so that they can earn more and increase the economy that way. So it's not the only measure, not the only objective, obviously, but I just wonder if you could comment. Clearly, the percentage that are inactive is much greater, or the number is much greater. So I just wonder if it's something about connecting to the employment. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I failed O-level maths, so I don't have numbers, but let me tell you the sort of ins and outs. So Lincolnshire's unemployment rate is below the national average. And that is a real problem for us when it comes to bidding for funding, because of course it's a blunt measure and it doesn't take into account various other things. So two of the issues in the labour market that I would identify are that work experience in the 16 to 25-year-olds is really, really low, and that if you become long-term unemployed at that age, it is a real struggle to get into the labour market. So that's a really big challenge, and work experience and careers guidance are two of the levers that Councillor Kelly and I have spoken about pulling in terms of doing that. The other one that is a particular challenge is over 55s. So we are seeing over 55s, such as myself, who are increasingly leaving the labour market. And if you think about the talent that 16 to 25-year-olds have, the experience that people in their mid-50s and above have, the labour market is going to struggle with fewer of those people. So that's why some of the work that we do is particularly focused around groups of that nature. The other thing is, of course, we have a significant productivity gap based upon the fact that, as you say, our skills levels within businesses are often lower than national average. Productivity gap has been masked a bit recently because the number of people in employment has dropped. So you've got fewer people making the same amount of stuff, so your productivity looks like it's going up. The reality is that that isn't the case. So we will bring papers over the next 6 months around things like Skills Bootcamp, about working with apprenticeships and so on, which will be about tackling that productivity gap. And when we bring Connect to Work, which I think is September, that will be focusing around those two particular groups that I described to you. So I think your point around unemployment rate, yeah, we've got a low unemployment rate, but it masks so many things that we need to tackle, and we need to articulate differently to gain extra funding.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
Is it related to that? Yeah, okay, Councillor Tyre. Just quickly.
Two things. I think the committee should note that Justin isn't over the age of 55. I don't believe it, just looking at you, Justin. You look far younger. Just on what you just mentioned there, Justin, about work experience and placements. Obviously, as a local authority and as local authorities across Greater Lincolnshire, we've got a role in that, haven't we? I've just done a quick Google search, work experience at Lincolnshire County Council, and there is a web page for that, which is great. But you have to search the directory. So I've just searched accounting, for instance. Nothing comes up. We're short of planning officers, aren't we? So if I search planning, does something come up? No. So I'm just wondering, is there a way that we can internally as a local authority and within the authorities of Lincolnshire just maximise work experience placements that we offer? There are some within the education team, I think, when I did search that, so you're off the book. But also, just the way that information's presented, rather than having to search it, can it just be on the page? Because I don't think it's very clear. Just thinking of what this organisation could do.
Is there no page of just all the opportunities? Does that not exist? Surely that would be a no-brainer.
You have to search it.
But there's no page with every single opportunity that would appeal to somebody who needs a job. Does that page not exist? No.
I think it does, not for work experience.
Work experience.
Councillor Friends. Can that be improved? Is my question in a long-about way.
No, I'm not going to.
I'll let Justin
when you
speak.
took the mickey out my age. Yeah, I think there's a really, really important point here, which is actually about how people consume information. So, as the dad of a 20 and 21-year-old, I know that the last thing my two would do is go on a website to look for something. So, we certainly need to get better as an organisation in describing those employment opportunities in a way which is suitable. We certainly will have 3 or 4 young people on work experience in my department over the summer. Typically their parents work in the department, and I think we've got to break through that somehow. So I will take away that I will go and talk to colleagues in human resources about how they can present the information differently. I think on a personal level, given the challenge, we'll probably have a little think about whether we can do a bit more to provide opportunities around those hard-to-fill vacancies in our world.
Councillor Corey, do you want to make this quick as well?
Thank you. I'm jumping in the opportunity. Thank you for that, Justin, as someone who is over 50. I know. It was on the news this morning, I think it was this morning, could have been yesterday, that there are over 500,000 graduates claiming universal benefit in the United Kingdom. We have 2 universities in Lincoln and with campuses across the county. What are we doing to ensure that we have a good relationship with the University of Lincoln and Lincoln Bishop or BG, whatever it's going to call itself, so we can match up the skills that people are graduating with our needs going forward? Because declaration of interest, I'm a postgraduate researcher at the University of Lincoln, and I know that they really struggle to find opportunities. So how can we make Lincolnshire County Council an employer of choice for high quality graduates from those 2 universities?
So there are certain programmes where that is already taking place, but it is very, very career specific. So, for example, for a long time, and I'm not sure of the current status, but University of Lincoln delivered social work degree level qualifications as a ladder into the county council. Our conversations with both of the universities, both of whom are, you know, really strong and really passionate about their area, is that in developing new provision, they have to assess three things. The first one is there an employer demand? Now, clearly we, as a large organisation, could probably fulfil that with those organisations. The second one is, can they find teachers to deliver the provision? And that becomes a challenge to them because of the labour market for lecturers, etc. And then the third one is, which takes us back to the careers point, will students want to sign up to it? So there is absolutely a further conversation to have with both universities and indeed with the FE colleges and so on. But we also need to think about whether there is something we can do to support those institutions to tackle their own skills shortages, which is something which came through when Councillor Kelly and I were at Bishop Burton College a while ago. And also we've got to get bigger at careers activity because it drives the demand, which makes the universities want to invest in that provision. So three-prong approach.
Just a quick supplementary on that, because you know the headline things that if you work in accountancy, you might want to work in public sector finance, but there are dotted line links where someone may, for example, off the top of my head, have studied criminality and they may be looking at jobs in the police. They want to stay in Lincolnshire. There isn't a job going at Lincolnshire Police. However, their degree level skills and their research skills may be of benefit to another department in Lincolnshire County Council, but because they're young graduates, they don't necessarily have the life experience to make those dotted line links. So what can we do as an organisation to make those links for them so we don't lose them to another county?
Sort of one of those issues which straddles both the human resources conversations that will take place at the Resources Committee and this one. But certainly from our side, it's absolutely about working with the graduate employment officers within those organisations and seeking to make sure that they are thinking laterally in the way that you describe. So I'm fairly confident that corporately we have those conversations. Could we do more? Could we do it more effectively? That's the challenge to us, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Condor, you having a question regarding this quickly?
Short question, I hope. How do we encourage employers to open up the workplace to give people work experience?
So we'll bring a paper on the Careers Hub to a meeting. I think it's October they're coming. But essentially we have a group of people who go out and work with employers, a group of people who go and work out with the careers leads in schools and try and get the two together. It's quite complicated, not least on things like health and safety and all of that, which is why what we typically do is recruit people who used to be careers teachers to come and work for us so that they can understand that side of the house as well. We'll bring more on that. I can't remember whether it's next month or October, and I'll make sure that the team have given some thought to answering that question in detail in their paper when it comes.
Thank you. I just added to that, one of the issues that I found through experience was the red tape that you do have to jump through to provide that. So, thank you.
Councillor Kelly?
Councillor Condell, and just on that as well, just to reinforce the point that we can't do our own work in isolation. We have to work with other stakeholders, i.e. the schools, etc. And it's also a case of not seeing work experience as something that's rushed towards the end of education, but having a approach that is more proactive, and there's more careers advice and involvement throughout the journey of school, so that I believe it's a 2-week mandated period for work experience for children to go through. That it's not modular, but they can take it at different stages throughout the school journey. Therefore, you know, they're being more informed as they go along that journey, and that journey also takes into account the opportunities that are available locally as well, where there's an emphasis on the schools to also have a look at what is available and have their part to take in shaping you know, the works experience and transitions from school into the working environment for those children. So it's a multi-stakeholder approach really that's effective. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor East.
Thank you, Chair. Team Adult Education, top marks, well done. But I do see a red mark here on page 69 saying that family learning venues are shortfall. And considering we've got so much property to get rid of, what's the problem there?
Thank you. So our family learning programme is delivered in partnership with schools across the county, and unfortunately over the past 12 months we've had a bit of a downfall in demand from schools, and it's mainly around other initiatives that schools are required to deliver, which they are prioritising over family learning. But it's something that obviously we are aware of, you know, as you say, through the graphics on there, and something that we're working to try and turn around for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Woodruff.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just regarding, obviously the KPIs are brilliant. The satisfaction, say 98%, is fantastic. Just on the programme itself, I just wondered if there were any plans to expand on the digital learning with a view to whether it be employability, wellbeing, vocational courses, to help obviously as Councillor Robinson said, the 58,000 long-term sick, the carers, rural areas, and presumably it would help with costs in regards to as compared to in-person venues. And as well, I think obviously it would improve wider participation in the programme, which is what we all want. So really, that's all it is. I'm assuming the answer will be yes, because everything else is coming forward. But yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
So just to confirm, you mean in terms of online delivery as opposed to digital courses? That's.
Yes, online delivery and the course is available, and so it was only. I say only, but obviously you're above your target as well. So yeah, the actual virtual classroom courses availability and moving forward, is that going to be expanded?
So we introduced digital delivery, obviously as a result of COVID. And the need to change that delivery. We do recognise that it gives more flexibility to certain individuals who are perhaps trying to access learning around other commitments, such as caring responsibilities, as you rightly say. We constantly keep our programme under review. We do have certain courses where we recognise that face-to-face delivery is the preferred option. For example, construction courses where there's practical element that could be better delivered. But we do review the programme annually. We review the demand annually and within year as well, in terms of ensuring that we can increase access where possible.
Yeah, thank you.
I also have a question regarding the DUP sets the eligibility criteria, and then it mentions their asylum seekers are eligible, and then that comes to you and that comes to us, and it's a bit of a game of Chinese whispers. So I'd like some clarity of what's the definition of an asylum seeker in regards to who's eligible for this programme.
Thank you for that question. The eligibility criteria is complex. I don't have the exact definition to hand, but I'd be happy to send it over with some greater clarity afterwards, if that's all right.
Yes, please, that would be fantastic. Are there any more questions? No? Okay. Oh, Vice Chair.
I assume that a lot of these courses cost quite a significant amount of money. And I just want to ask, really, probably a hard question at this point to answer, but what procedures are in place to make sure that the people who are actually doing these courses are actually doing it for employment reasons and actually get to work after? I hear a lot of stories about people going into job centres and them saying, well, if you want to stay on benefits a little bit longer, do one of these courses for 6 weeks, it keeps you going. What are the procedures which are in place, which kind of, in many ways, I want people who do these courses to get a job at the end of it. That's the main point of them, isn't it? How do we track that, and what are the procedures to go in place, please?
Okay, thank you for that question. So we carry out collection of actual progression data, which means that we ask our providers to follow up with learners that they're working with after they actually leave their learning programme. Recognising, though, that some learners will have quite a long journey from their first entrance into a learning programme until eventually finding a job, hence why the majority of our learners do move into education outcomes. We tend to track on an annual basis within year at this time to find out where learners have actually ended up. Yeah.
Thank you. In addition to the actual progression data that Jenny's referred to, she mentioned earlier in the report about the number of providers who we work with, and it is part of their requirements that they recruit those learners who need the learning. So we've got extensive quality monitoring arrangements that are carried out by our team to ensure, as you're saying, that those learners who need the learning will go on and do the learning and have that positive outcome. In addition to the work that we do with our providers that has been recognised by Ofsted as being rigorous, in addition to that, we also do carry out learner focus groups where the team will meet with the learners to find out why did they join the course in the first place, what have they got out of it, and what can they do now that they couldn't do at the beginning of the course, along with the satisfaction surveys that ask questions on there around why have you joined the course? Are you now better able to get a job if you were unemployed? A whole raft of questions to help with our quality monitoring and where we need to put interventions in place for our providers to ensure that the money is used the way it is intended by the Department for Education and as by our learning board, as Justin mentioned earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. And are there any courses for people who want to start their own businesses as well? I mean, I started my business with the new enterprise scheme, which unfortunately the Conservatives got rid of, which I thought was a fantastic scheme. I wouldn't be here without it now. What sort of course? I know we have charities like the Prince's Trust, but I really found out the government backed. It wasn't necessarily about the money either, which you were given. It was about the business owners, which would come and educate people and help people start their own businesses as well. And obviously, not everyone wants to work for someone else, do they? Some people want to start their own businesses. So are there any courses or any more courses available for that as well, please? Thank you.
Yeah, yes, there are, thank you. And they include, as you're alluding to, elements around accountancy and all of those skills that you need to set up your own course, as well as social media. If you'd like, we can include some of the curriculum with the meeting minutes, so you've got some more information on those. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Kelly.
Sorry, just to reinforce that point also, there is a lot of engagement by officers within the county council to support small businesses, and also those small businesses, entrepreneurs, sole traders, etc. They're also signposted to the Federation of Small Businesses, where there's a network of support, lessons learnt, etc., where they're able to optimise those sort of experiences as well. Thank you.
Any more questions? No? We'll move on to the proposal. I move that the committee endorse the report, that our satisfaction be recorded in relation to the achievements and successes of the Adult Skills and Family Learning Programme for the academic year 2024/25, including its contribution to raising participation, supporting economic growth, and improving outcomes for priority learning groups across Lincolnshire. And that the committee approves the continued development of the new Employment and Skills Open Framework intended to replace the current Adult Skills and Family Learning Open Framework, and to support the commissioning of programmes from 2026 to 27 academic year onwards in preparation for the devolution of the Adult Skills Fund to the Greater Lincolnshire Combined County Authority. And finally, I ask that our comments from today's discussion be cascaded across relevant teams and shared with the portfolio holder for their information and relevant actioning. And let's have a raise of hands. Who is in favour? That's unanimous. Votes carried. Just want to take a quick 5 minutes now. Be back at 22 past, please. All right, we're going to restart the proceedings. Not everyone's here yet, but they'll be here in due course for the discussion and such. So on to the Economic Investment Programme. The Scrutiny report can be found on pages 63 to 66 of the agenda pack. The report gives members an overview of the Economic Investment Programme currently underway. The programme is focused on creating new spaces for businesses to grow, particularly in key sectors like defence and food manufacturing, and in priority areas such as East Lindsey and West Lindsey. As each proposal develops, we will have the opportunity to examine the detail through the formal scheme justification and scheme appraisal process. Our actions are to review and comment on the detail contained in the report and recommend any relevant actions to leading officers and to the Executive Councillor for Growth that are relevant to the Economic Investment Programme. The report will be presented by Justin Brown, Assistant Director for Growth. We're not doing well on time, so officers, if you try and keep it brief, reports are taken as read, and then also questions from councillors. We want a good discussion, but we would like to keep it brief as well. Okay, on to you, Justin.
Okay, Chairman, thank you very much. So this is simply an update. So we're not looking for specific decisions today. We will bring detail to you on individual schemes. But back around about a year ago, the Council agreed an economic investment programme, value of £20 million, and this is to give you a very quick update on the programme. It was designed to do two things. One was primarily to help businesses in Lincolnshire in the most important sectors where we are economically at an advantage to grow, to really offer jobs, to offer investment and to make a significant difference to their communities. And its second objective was to fill gaps where the market was failing. So in terms of the defence sector, we have carried out quite a lot of work in terms of analysis on that centre. Simon, sitting directly behind me, has led a lot of that work, and we expect to bring a proposal which will be a detailed business plan, including high-level costings, high-level benefits, and a demand analysis to the November or December meeting. I'm trying to be quick and not reading the paper. In terms of the food sector, you will be aware that our agriculture and food manufacturing sector is one of the strongest, not just in the UK, but in Western Europe. And a lot of that business is focused around the Holbeach area. We already own a food enterprise zone in that area, which comprises some serviced land and some unserviced land. We've sold some of the land to private businesses who are now putting up their own facilities, so it shows us that servicing land makes a difference. And we have done some designs and some demand analysis about extending the extent of the servicing of the land, which we intend to bring to September's meeting. So those two are moving quite significantly quickly. Similarly, we have a market failure in Louth, and we are looking at extending a plot of land in the Fairfield Industrial Estate, and again I would expect to bring that particular scheme to you before the end of this calendar year. Looking slightly further ahead, we've got an advanced manufacturing centre whose feasibility we are working on, which will be in Grantham. I expect to bring you some high-level information about that shortly after Christmas, with a view to us continuing to work over the following 12 months on that. And we are also doing some work around extending industrial estates in both West Lindsey and in Boston. I won't tell you whereabouts because this is a public meeting and we don't want to affect land values and things like that. But essentially, we believe that the West Lindsey scheme will help Lincolnshire businesses take advantage of the opportunities from Step Fusion just across the Trent, and we recognise that Boston is quite constrained by a lack of available employment land, and therefore we're keen to see something, although that probably needs to flow from the timing of the Boston area local plan. So progress, I would have taken a lot longer and talked a lot more about benefits and so on, but given time, Chairman, I'll stick to that. Progress is looking good. We've got a number of things which are in the forward plan for this committee to bring you a lot more detail, and we will continue to work on our feasibility studies and our project plans, bearing in mind any comments that the committee might have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. First question from Councillor Corey.
Thank you. Great paper, Justin. Thank you. You mentioned market failure. So can you tell us why we intervene where there's market failure, and what due diligence do we do to make sure that our intervention will make sure that the council taxpayers get best value for money, and that we're not using public money to prop up a sector that the market has decided there's no future for? Thank you.
So in terms of this paper, we see market failure very much as being where the private sector is unable to build speculative industrial or commercial land because either land values are significantly too high or because rent levels are too low. So that's our sort of model. What we have experienced over the past 4 to 5 years is a shift from what was a need for us to service land and build property into now, if we service the land, typically the private sector's costs become less risky for them, which enables them to bring their own development forward. They're not paying for the drainage, they're not paying for the power and things like that. In terms of due diligence, we will do a lot of work behind the scenes in terms of assessing the market, working with agents, using our own specialist knowledge. But fundamentally, the biggest piece of due diligence is that we will bring business cases here, and you will have the opportunity to scrutinise that approach that we've taken to ensure that we've addressed the issues that you raise. I'd really encourage you to scrutinise us hard, because it'll be him doing it.
All right, thank you. And on to Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. Yeah, so given that 58% of businesses cited access to suitable and affordable premises as a growth constraint, what proportion of the new facilities will be designated as affordable to ensure broad access for growing businesses?
We will do two things. One is we look at a market demand analysis to work out what that should look like. And we have certain constraints of our own, so we cannot automatically offer below market rents and things like that. So we have to make sure that we're getting something suitable. The second thing is that we have both sales and letting policies. And we will be bringing those to you over the next 2 to 3 months so that you can explore whether the policies that we've got meet the type of issues you've got in your question there.
Thank you. And Councillor Condell.
Referring back to item 5 on the agenda, are there any properties within item 5 that we could use within these programmes?
So we will always seek to deliver something which balances value for money with being the right solution for the business community. And so we will always have meetings around the property disposal strategy and around similar approaches that colleagues in district councils, universities, etc. have got, so that we aren't simply saying the answer is always to build something new on a field, but is actually to say, are there other solutions? There rarely are, but we do undertake that.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we do. I think we meet property about once every 6 weeks, something like that, to go through lists.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. And Councillor East.
Thank you, Chair. And Justin, a very good report. Just building on Councillor Corley's question, really, is that I see you mentioned that public intervention is required in the defence sector. Given that it's so important to national security, wouldn't we expect some government money?
Potentially. I guess the issue that we considered when this programme was being developed, and Councillor Corey was one of the exec members who was involved in that, was pace versus cost. So in terms of pursuing government funding, we could do that. That would probably add best part of a year to a work programme. We know there is a demand now in the defence sector. We know there are businesses who are not locating to Lincoln as quickly and as comprehensively as we would hope. So the balance is one of, do you pursue a grant? And it hurts me to say it because I've been a grant officer for 20 odd years. But do you pursue a grant? Probably not in that instance, because you might well miss that market requirement. And that's the challenge. And again, when we bring the business plans, that's something you might want to kick the tyres on.
I have a question. Would it be worth members of the committee visiting the food enterprise zone at some point next year?
You'd be very welcome to. I think we're really keen to get the timing right so that you can see some of the private developments that are taking place. As I said, we've just sold a plot of land, or Simon behind me will tell me we're negotiating heads of terms and things like that. But there'll be a new business developing out. There'll be a couple which have just opened, and the hub centre, which is where our business community will probably be a bit more full. It's about 55% at the moment. So let's get the timing right so you can see something. But be very, very welcome to come and take a look. We'd be delighted to host.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions on this one? No? Okay, we'll go to a vote on the suggested proposal. I move that the committee endorse the report and the economic investment programme, that our satisfaction be recorded in relation to information and assurance provided by officers, and I ask that our comment from today's discussion be cascaded across relevant teams and shared with the portfolio holder for their information and relevant actioning. And potentially, maybe at next meeting, ask for a visit. Not the next, I mean, organise a visit at some point about the food enterprise zone. Okay, hands in favour. That's unanimous, thank you. On to the next item. The LCC Economic Infrastructure Commercial Portfolio Performance Report. The scrutiny report can be found on pages 67 to 76. The paper provides an introduction to the Council's economic infrastructure portfolio, our network of business sites and premises that support local economic growth. The report also shares the latest tenant satisfaction results and outlines key performance measures, such as occupancy rates and how efficiently our buildings are being run. Finally, it sets out the actions the Council has taken to improve the portfolio's performance and ensure it continues to meet the needs of the businesses across Lincolnshire. Our actions are to review and comment on the detail contained in the report, provide feedback on the results of the tenant satisfaction survey, and request that officers present in the economic infrastructure letting strategy and economic infrastructure development land sales strategy for discussion in autumn 2025. We'll have an introduction from Justin Brown and then move on to a presentation by Simon Wright, the Regeneration and Portfolio Manager. Over to you.
Chairman, thank you. And I think Holbeach looks good in March, so that would probably be the best time to come to the Food Enterprise Zone. So very briefly from me, continuation of the previous paper, one of the questions you will have in your mind is, does this approach work? What works? What needs to be challenged around us as a host of tenant businesses? So Simon's paper will describe to you a little bit about what we do that we were seeking to expand on in the previous paper, and also talk to you a little bit about tenant satisfaction, and it picks up a little bit about sales and leasing policies, as Councillor Robinson asked. So over to you, Simon.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Chairman. I'll be as brief and succinct as I can, and by introducing the paper. And what I would describe the paper as being in sort of 4 distinct parts. The first quarter of the paper is very much an introduction to the portfolio, setting out the locations of where we are and the types of property that we own and manage, which broadly fall into 2 categories of offices and industrial workshops. We have a very good representation across the whole of the county. In most market towns, and as well as Lincoln itself, we are represented with the properties that we offer to our tenants. Our USP is that we offer all of our tenants what I described as relatively easy in but very easy out lease terms. So what that means is we do traditional checks on incoming tenants to make sure they've got a valid business plan, they've got a bank reference and things like that, which all commercial landlords would do. But unlike most commercial landlords, we give all of our tenants a rolling break so that they can hand the keys back to us at short notice at any time. That is pretty unusual in the property sector. The reason we do that is we want to de-risk small businesses making those decisions to upscale their business idea, which they might be doing in a spare bedroom or in a garage, and to take the leap to take professional space where they can grow the business, become established, and meet and greet clients and things like that. So that is our unique selling point. So against that backdrop, the property portfolio is managed by a team of surveyors in my team. They are property managers and also very skilled and experienced of liaising with our tenants, and we do as much as we can to support the tenants with their businesses. We hold regular coffee mornings, business-to-business networking events, CPD opportunities, either ourselves or we support tenants to do it to each other, as it were. And we've got a very proactive tenant in Gainsborough in particular, at Mercury House, who's very keen to organise these events, and we're very happy to support that third-party offer to, as I say, business-to-business networking. I won't go into all the facts and figures behind the portfolio there for everybody to read. I thought it'd be useful to set a little bit of the context into which we're operating at the moment, and regularly update Justin and the management team within the department about the bigger economic picture. Not my interpretation, very much picking up on the interpretation of respected bodies like the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors and the Bank of England. They paint a very uncertain picture of the economic climate at the moment, with a reticence from investment developers and occupiers to make those big investment decisions because of the global uncertainty that the economy is facing. So I think it's important to understand what we do against that sort of wider economic context. To the main thrust of the paper, which was the actual engaging with our tenants and their satisfaction with not only our properties but the services that we provide. What I would like to very quickly stress is we have departed from the normal approach this year. Previous years we've engaged with tenants, and I've been in front of the Scrutiny Committee 3 or 4 times now annually. We've been very discursive with our members and had lots of sort of structured interviews, which has been helpful. But it hasn't been perfect. It's taken a lot of time. We might have used up some goodwill from some of our tenants who just want to get on with running their business. And it's made comparison year on year very difficult. So what we've done for the first time this year, and we're really setting a baseline with you today, we've focused the survey on 5 questions, and we've asked our tenants to gauge whether or not they're extremely satisfied or dissatisfied with the services and the property that we provide. The results of that survey are in the paper. Again, I won't go through them in detail. I suppose the one figure that I'm particularly proud of in terms of the work that the team do, 95.5% of our tenants said that they would recommend our business premises to fellow businesses. And I like to think that's a pretty strong endorsement. And I hope with those figures that we've included in the paper, we've set a benchmark which we can come back to you next year and compare progress. And I have to say, on those figures, we've set that benchmark very high, so we have got a challenge, but we're up for that challenge because we want to continue providing that service for our tenants. Final quarter of the paper lists some other performance measures that we measure ourselves against. And I think if I was to focus on one in particular on page 76, it would be the fact that through our work on the portfolio in the last year, we have supported 157 employment roles with our tenants. And that's a very strong figure that we're proud of, and we'd like to monitor that in future years. That's a very quick whistle-stop talk, so I'm very conscious of the time today and happy to take any questions on any of those points you'd like me to expand on. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a first question from Councillor Condell.
Thank you, Simon and Justin. You're talking there about... Sorry, thank you both again. You're talking there about a rolling contract. That is good for the people renting from us, but it does pose a risk to us ourselves. Not that I'm adverse to that, because I think it's good to try and get people into business and give them the chance to expand. But how do we measure our return on investment for these businesses that we're encouraging?
Well, yeah, thank you, Councillor. That is a really good point, and I think it's fair to say our strength in what we offer is also a weakness, because it does make sort of financial monitoring very challenging, because the situation in our portfolio can change very quickly if we were to have some tenants hand the keys into us at short notice. So it is a strength, but it is also a challenge in terms of providing sort of those long-term performance measures. What I would say to the second point of your question, at the portfolio, as you've probably gauged, we don't hold that for investment purposes. So this isn't in any of our pensions. We're not measured on those traditional landlord performance measures in terms of those financial measures. So very much measured on our supported economy and how we do that by job growth, how many new businesses have we brought into one of our business centres. So our measure of success is very much on those bases rather than pure financially. But we do, as you see in the paper, we do have a very keen eye on our operating costs and our rent collection, and that's something that we do review constantly. We're always looking for opportunities to bring more revenue into the portfolio. We're very hot on issuing our service charges so that we cover any costs from our tenants promptly, and we do as much as we can, and as I say, we're always looking for opportunities to bring more income in and to mitigate our costs.
Thank you. And Councillor Corey.
Thank you, Chairman. Simon, Justin invited us to ask difficult questions, so I've...
I was hoping you wouldn't take him up on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it's a really good paper. There's so many positives in this. But, you know, as a marketer, I want to know, I mean, the satisfaction survey results are really outstanding. Do we measure or do we find out why people are dissatisfied with us? And in order to increase our satisfaction rating, if we ask people why they're dissatisfied, what do we do about that? Those dissatisfaction measures, those comments we get back, which is often, you know, if you ask people, you get more out of why don't you than why do you?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Yes, we do obtain that feedback, and I think that was perhaps the strength of the more discursive approach in previous years, because we were able to develop that conversation on the basis of, there's a cliche coming here, so apologies. You said we did, but that was quite a strong conversation we had. If I had more time today, I would have pulled out a couple of things to balance off the good news, which are in the paper, and there are a couple of examples here where tenants have expressed some dissatisfaction with either the property or the services that we provide, and in those cases which are in the paper, my colleagues have had a conversation with them to I think one particular example is a tenant was looking for some financial support to carry out some internal improvements. Clearly within the terms of the lease, that was something that there was a tenant's obligation. It would have set a very dangerous precedent if we had been able to sort of financially contribute to that. And I think that also demonstrates the sort of very knife-edge balance that the team has to manage between that economic performance and making sure that we're maximising the rental income with supporting the tenants and helping them as much as we can, because sometimes that does bring us into conflict, and we have to use our professional judgment to manage that.
So just to come back, so it's expectation management rather than, okay.
Sometimes it is. It's having that discussion with the tenant, looking at the lease together with them and saying, well, yeah, I'm really sorry, guys, but under the terms of the lease, we would expect you to look at that. But if it's something that as a landlord, it's our responsibility, we'll obviously deal with it promptly straight away.
Thank you. And Councillor Dyer?
Thank you, Chair. It made me chuckle then, Simon. Because of the limited time, you only highlighted all the good bits in the report. I like it's a smooth way of operating. That's why, Chairman, I don't mind how long the committee meetings take. But very good. Simon, I had the pleasure, obviously, in the last council, visiting most of the managed workspaces that the council have, and they are fantastic. And it'd be great over the next 4 years if members, if you're interested, having visits to those centres as well, because they're not just office blocks like Eventus, for instance. They are nice office facilities that look nice. They're nice places to be. And clearly, Simon, the tenants agree there. The stats aren't quite as good as the adult learning though, with 98%. So you've got work to do there, and you're 95.5. Yeah. But no, I think that they are fantastic. I think the cheap shot an opposition councillor could make is that obviously I think there's still a revenue contribution, isn't there? They're about circa £200,000. Yeah. But I see that as an investment that this council is investing into the economy in Lincolnshire. And okay, whilst it doesn't quite cover its costs, it almost does, which is great. Just one question within the feedback. Over 3/4, 78.6% of respondents were satisfied or extremely satisfied with the location of their premises and that the needs have been met. Obviously, that's quite, 25% almost aren't satisfied with the location of the premises. Do we have any context behind that? Because some of them are quite well connected. Is there one particular premises that's causing problems in respect to connectivity?
What I would say, and that may not be the result of the feedback here, but what I would say in response to that, my professional opinion, is that we do have some centres which are much stronger in terms of their location compared with others. And I think what we see, in my experience from the portfolio, the Aventus Business Centre in Market Deeping is our strongest office building by some considerable way. And we often have a waiting list in Market Deeping. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think it's located very well in terms of its proximity to not only Market Deeping, but Bourne and Stamford and that sort of almost that Rutland interland, where there is a lot of affluent businesses, as I say, clustered around Bourne and Stamford. And those business owners may not want to commute into Peterborough, which would be the traditional business location in that area. So what we do is offer a very professional, high-quality business space without the hassle of going into Peterborough. That's my own personal opinion on why Market Deeping is so successful. To counter that, very similar size, very similar spec building in Gainsborough, Mercury House, has traditionally struggled to fill its space. And I think in Gainsborough, there's clearly some competition from Retford, Scunthorpe, maybe even Sheffield and Rotherham, those other business locations, which has been a significant drag on in terms of our ability to occupy Mercury House. Having said that, in the last few weeks we are seeing a change, and we do have a number of live inquiries actually. So I'd like to say next time I come and present this paper, that might have shifted. So that's a very long-winded, descriptive answer. I'm not sure it covers the point you wanted me to cover there, Councillor Dyer.
No, thank you for that, Simon. I suppose for future years, just some feedback, because I think how the report's presented and the data that's coming back is far more useful than it was in previous years. I suppose it relies on trust from committee for you to present it, but if there are any business centres that for instance, 100% of the tenants don't like where it's located, could that be provided within the context of the report? Just if there are any, the data shows that there's something wrong with the centre, within the preamble or within that report, could that be provided? I appreciate you might not want to provide percentages for each of the business centres, but if there's anything that the committee would find interesting,
Happily take that feedback for next year, Councillor Dyer. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Corey.
Thank you. On this point, you've half answered my question, but would it be useful to set that out graphically in a heat map and overlay that with other indices, like if there are any, sorry, it's kind of a different paper now, isn't it? Kind of any indices of deprivation or any other thing that we might find useful, that we could start to build a picture of why there may be some dissatisfaction, why there may be some empty units, or what people actually want from that area. How far are they travelling? Do we know that we've got some units, for example, in Gainsborough, or we got people in Market Raisin. They don't know that there are places in Gainsborough, and is there a lot of, toing and froing that people might actually have some greater satisfaction if they could have a unit a little closer to home or where their suppliers and clients are?
Yeah, we'll happily do a little bit more a deeper dive into some of the reasons why we're getting that result. Yeah, but thank you for that feedback. Yeah.
Thank you. And are there any more questions? I'll move on to the proposal then. Ooh. Disappeared. Okay. I move that the committee endorse the report and that our satisfaction be recorded in relation to assurances received by officers. I ask that our comments and feedback from today's discussion be cascaded across relevant teams and shared with the portfolio holder for their information and relevant actioning. And finally, I ask that the officers present the economic infrastructure letting strategy and economic infrastructure development land sales strategy in autumn 2025 in liaison with our designated scrutiny officer for those items to be introduced to our committee's work programme. Looking around and let's see, hands in agreement. Unanimous. On to the next item. Visitor economy strategy for promoting Lincolnshire to visitors. Update. The scrutiny report can be found on pages 77 to 86. The report summarises the current state of Lincolnshire's tourism sector, noting that while it is extensive, it is predominantly made up of small businesses that have faced 5 consecutive years of trading difficulties due to COVID-19 pandemic and ongoing economic challenges. The situation shows little improvement for the 2025 summer season, and the recent closure of Destination Lincolnshire has further weakened sector coordination. In response, the County Council has provided stability by investing in visitlincolnshire.com, enhancing social media activity, supporting product development and delivering skills training to sustain and promote the industry. Our actions are to review and comment on the County Council's strategic role and support to the industry following the demise of Destination Lincolnshire, the quality of visitlincolnshire.com and its role in selling Lincolnshire, the click-through to a booking rate of 16.4% achieved in 2024, indicating that a visitor to the website has been inspired to action. It is the goal to keep this rate high, although it does not fluctuate through the seasons, and to endorse and support the summer marketing campaign by members following and reposting social media and supporting the tourism business. We'll have an introduction from Justin Brown and then a presentation by Mary Powell and Hayley Toyne. On to you, Justin.
So, Chairman, thank you. And I gave a quick officer update at the last meeting around the demise of Destination Lincolnshire and the work that's been done by the team to make sure that there is that coordination and leadership going ahead. So there's a bit about that in this paper, but I guess partly because of time and mainly because actually the governance and leadership is important, but the delivery and getting more visitors into the area is the priority. The paper also talks about the activity that we carry out and the activity that we are planning for the future. So, yeah, governance and leadership important, but that actual delivery of services and trying to get those tourism numbers up is critical. And so I'll hand over to Mary and Hayley to describe the paper.
Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, a bit of a gallop through. I've done a brief overview of the tourist industry. It is worth just over $3 billion, but it is suffering some problems with the economy and sort of 5 years of COVID followed by that economic situation. VisitLincolnshire.com is our main vehicle, and we use the site's very comprehensive analytics to understand our visitors better. There are real economies of scale in running a county-wide website. If you look at something that we're promoting very strongly at the moment, which is the England Coast Path, Lincolnshire section completed this summer. You know, it starts in South Holland at Sutton Bridge and goes all the way up to the Humber Bridge. So if you're a visitor, you're going to want to look at the whole route and to know where you want to walk, which part of it you want to. Are you going to do the whole of it? Do you want to just do part of it? So the Visit Lincolnshire website has an attract and dispersal strategy. So the most expensive bit probably is the getting visitors in the first place, so attracting them. But then we're quite happy to sort of pass them on to more, it could be more detailed websites, it could be an individual business's website, but that attracting and inspiring them is the important first point. And I think our click-through rate, which is the industry average, is 4.7%, and last year we got 16.4%, which we are very pleased with, because what it's saying is somebody has been inspired to action, and they could have made a booking at a hotel or tickets for an event. They could have downloaded a map, but they've done something. You know, they haven't gone, you know, and you know what it's like when you're cruising the web. It's very easy to get distracted. If you don't find what you want, you're soon off, and you'll be booking in Yorkshire or somewhere, which obviously I don't want. That call to action is the figure I look at most closely each time. I think the last quarter we were up at 17.4%. So it's keeping it high is good. I could go on, but I'm very happy to take questions.
Got a question from Councillor Corey.
Obviously, I'm here to support Lincolnshire, but as a native of Yorkshire, it is quite lovely as well. I think you do it. I think this is a great paper, and I congratulate you on what you're doing to support the tourism sector in Lincolnshire. That I don't think there's anybody knows tourism in Lincolnshire quite like you do, Mary. So thank you for what you've been doing over many years. And your click-through rate is exemplary, but it is actually really difficult with a website to try and have a one-size-fits-all portal solution when our tourism offer, our visitor economy offer is really so diverse. and that when people go onto the website, someone who's interested in going to see the Magna Carta isn't necessarily interested in what Skegness has to offer. They might be, but it's a bit of a leap. So trying to find that magic bullet is don't bother, because you're not going to find it. I think what you're doing is excellent. Obviously, keep doing it, keep doing more. Technology changes, there are advances, there's AI, different ways of communicating with people, but I think you're doing a great job in a really difficult circumstance. Obviously, Lincolnshire County Council has done its bit with the Lincoln Castle illuminated, with the investment we're putting into the Lincoln Museum, with the series of summer concerts at the castle, which brought in over 52,000 extra visitors over a 6-week period this year, and similar last year. So we're doing our bit, but I just wanted to say thank you, Mary.
I think that we learnt the hard way that when we, because it is a very varied county, we were overcomplicating our messages from the get-go. And we were losing people because obviously they didn't understand. If you're not from around here, then you wouldn't understand what North Kay or, all the different district names and all those sorts of things. So we changed to city, countryside and coast, and we saw it made an immediate difference. Is that, visitors, they don't know the county, so your messages need to be very simple and uncomplicated. So that I think we have learnt by our mistakes.
Thank you, Mary. And for those quiz nerds who were alert yesterday evening, South Holland cropped up on Only Connect. Chairman, there you go.
Question from Councillor Dyer.
Thank you, Chairman. As somebody who spends most of my spare time trying to entertain 2 young children, you do often try and find places in your locality to go and visit. One thing unless I've missed it, there's no mention of the National Trust within this report at all. We know, for instance, Belton House, huge pull factor, people coming all over to go to Belton House, etc. So just what work do we do with the National Trust as a huge stakeholder in bringing people into Lincolnshire? And what work are we doing to try and promote to people actually what is in their locality? So I know the committee's going on a little bit, but my son is interested at the moment, he's almost 2.5, so he's interested in different things, different days of the week. But on Monday, he was interested in horses. And we only just discovered by speaking to one of my friends, Bransby Horses, which is a place just north of Lincoln. I'm not on commission, but it's free of charge to get in, and it's a horse rescue centre, and it wasn't that busy actually, but it was a lovely place, and I never knew it existed. So what are we doing to promote places like this that are in Lincolnshire, that actually residents 20 minutes down the road, they don't know they're there? And just further to that, with Destination Lincolnshire no longer being, the council, as I understand it, is solely responsible for Visit Lincolnshire. And I know just in your team in its entirety is quite a small team in comparison to other areas. So I'm going to assume the team that manages the website is a very, very small team. So what is it suitable for such a small team to manage the entire county's tourism marketing? And what contingency is in place if that site is underperforming, just to make sure that that team has all the resources it needs to do such an essential job?
Well, the Visit Lincolnshire website, which is owned and run by the County Council, we have, on 3 occasions, we have sort of tendered it out for others to look after it, and every time it's been handed back to us in a poorer state than we gave it to them in. And on this occasion, we have been running it ourselves, and it is the most successful by miles that it's ever been with the 3 of us running it. We have our web builders are local, and they're excellent, and we're very proud of it, and we put a lot into it. We do have contingency plans for how it operates, but during COVID we built it up from scratch, or in other words, we totally rebuilt it, and we know how it works, and we know what we want it to do. We're invested in it, the three of us, and we care, and we've had experience of letting others do it, and I suppose the top and bottom is they don't care. So we have found that works. In terms of your other thing about getting people interested in the whole variety of things that there are to do in Lincolnshire, we're now doing a lot more segmentation, and we want to do more. So we do sort of top 10 things to do with a small child on a rainy day, top 10 things to do for free, top 10 things for history buffs. So you can kind of the different markets and different interests, you can kind of scope out different options, and there's a whole lot of work that the website is quite, the back office is quite sophisticated, so we can do all manner of things, and there's much more that it can do that we've got plans for. I mean, our local market is I want local people to use visitlincolnshire.com as well as visitors, and they do. And our big drivers are events, which we have put a lot of effort into making sure that they're all always up to date. And the other thing is walks. We've got all the 200 plus county council walks are on the site, and load of other walks as well. Big drivers of traffic, and probably as much local people as people from away. So that's important to us.
If I may, Chairman, thank you very much, Mary, for that response. I probably you are doing such a good job. It's a great website. Social media is great, but it is such a small team. If the three of you were to be poached by Visit Yorkshire or wherever, just a question to Justin, really, I suppose, as an organisation, are there contingencies in place just to make sure that website, now we haven't got Destination Lincolnshire, that website can continue to function should you be poached from whoever, because you're doing such a good job?
So I would have to take some very quick decisions in terms of what I would do. I prefer to think of them winning the lottery, frankly. But at the moment, I would need to talk to Councillor Kelly, talk to the director, and I would need to be turning off certain services and moving other services across. So we have a very successful business advice website, and the people who drive that will have similar skills. They won't have the knowledge of Hayley and Mary, but they'll have a similar skill set. So I'd probably be juggling things around. One of the things I think I would be particularly determined to do, though, is to avoid the sorry story that Mary just described, which would be one of working through a third party. We did try it 3 times. It failed 3 times. So there is a certain importance and value to the county council as a big strategic organisation that's been around a long time, remaining in that sort of a role rather than us taking a risk on smaller organisations which sometimes come and go.
Thank you. And Councillor East? No. Question's been answered. Councillor Bowles?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'd just echo the comments of everybody else about, a fantastic paper and the work that the team do. Councillor Corey mentioned the events at Lincoln Castle. We attended, I think we went to 3 this year. We went to the Texas one on the Sunday night, and I think people from Lincolnshire were probably in the minority at the event. Everybody we spoke to was from away, people from Newcastle and stuff like that. So it does draw people in massively, events like that. And it's the reputation from, like somebody said earlier, when it started, even in Lincolnshire, you'd never really heard that it was going on. Whereas now everybody seems to know about it. So yeah, that's great. My question is, do you have any way of monitoring or measuring the impact on the visitor economy of sport and what that brings into the economy? I would imagine Lincoln City, for example, is, you know, you could get some of that from working with those guys about the away support. But it really does blow my mind sometimes, the amount of people that come into the county every weekend to watch non-league football. You might think Gainsborough, Trinity, Grantham, Boston, Bourne, you know, might only get a few hundred people watching them, but regularly there'll be 20, 30 people come and stay for the weekend. And I know we do it when we go away watching Trinity. You know, we'll make a weekend of it when we go over to Lancaster or whatever. So I'm just curious to know how you measure that. And it's not just football. I know in Gainsborough we host Lincolnshire County Darts. Now when they play, they'll play Essex, for example, and they'll bring 2 coach loads full of people for the weekend into Gainsborough. So the impact that has on Gainsborough's visitor economy over that weekend is massive, because all they do is drink and eat. So it's fantastic for the, you know, the nighttime economy in Gainsborough. So I'm just curious about if we have any mechanism or, you know, any link up we can do with sports across the county to measure the impact that they're bringing in and how we can improve it as well.
It is much harder to measure. You're absolutely right, and I suppose it's about those building up those relationships with those sports, and we have worked with, some of the big cycling events, you know, and often those people will come to us about the accommodation side of things. Can we help on that side of things? So it's about building up those relationships, and I think there's a lot more that we can do.
Yeah, if I could just add to that as well, in terms of the, you see it pulling through quite strongly in our segmentation and some of our more specific things like our blog posts. So, for example, market racing is a great example as well, with the horse racing and joining all the product together. So joining up accommodation, how to get there easily, how to get people back easily as well, and get them staying in the county. So there are various things. Cadwell is another one. Lincoln City were working quite closely with Visit Lincoln of old, and that's something that I had a conversation with them a few weeks ago actually to pick up as well. So we are aware that sports tourism is another thing to look at, and I think the flexibility of the site as well allows us to do that through segmentation, through our favouriting as well, and pulling together itineraries and things like that. So and social media as well. So it's a story that we can tell in lots of different ways.
Thank you. And Councillor Corey?
Thank you. I think that's an excellent question. Thank you for asking it, especially today when the Lionesses are being paraded up the Mall in London, and we're here, which is great. Is this something that we could put on a future paper? Would it come to our committee, or would it go to culture?
Yeah, Justin would like to talk on that.
Well, if it's Gainsborough Trinity, they don't play the most cultured style, do they? When Gainsborough went on an FA Cup run, which is about 9 months ago, something like that, wasn't it? We resolved a meeting of the Environment and Economy Scrutiny Committee to ask Active Lincolnshire, some of you might remember them as the Lincolnshire Sports Partnership, to carry out exactly the piece of research that you've described. One or two things have transpired against us getting the meeting in the diary. I've just checked. We're meeting them towards the end of September with a view to asking them what they already hold and what potentially they could commission. So we'll take a look then, and if they've got something which is off the shelf and valuable, then we'll speak with the chairman about potentially bringing it to presentation here. But I think I'd like to check if the wheel exists before we reinvent it, really. But it's certainly an action that, despite being several months old, we haven't lost sight of.
Thank you. And Councillor Robinson?
Thank you. Is Visit Lincolnshire using external apps to advertise events and walks to promote what we do in Lincolnshire? So, for example, there's plenty of walking apps that people use. I use one to go to the Peak District, and it showed me a route, and that's a great way to advertise, where our walks are, just on an app without even visiting the website. Whether we're sort of utilising that as well and linking to Visit Lincolnshire, so then they can visit our website as well to see more, and then using apps such as Eventbrite or Facebook where we can advertise events, and then link back to Visit Lincolnshire to gain that traction to the website.
In terms of apps specifically, it's something that we are building into our marketing plan for the remainder of the summer and the rest of the year. We've been looking at things like All Trails is a really good one. Some of the external advertising on there is sort of limited, so we're looking at different ways of reaching that audience really, but there are several sort of different channels that we can use. We're also looking at, we just engaged with a walking influencer as well who has 350,000 followers, and we're creating product and routes with her to promote through our existing channels as well. And then finally, in terms of apps as well, although we don't have our own app that goes along with the website and the social channels, we're leaning into some of our advertising suppliers that do have that functionality. So, for example, the local newspapers that are published by Reach PLC, they have some capability there. So that's part of our package with them for the remainder of the summer and for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's brilliant. With All Trails is actually what, the app that I use, so that's great that we're already thinking about that. And TikTok as well, supporting influencers. They're the main, driver for, especially for young people to come to for walking. It's where the main advertising is to see where to go. So thanks very much. That's great to hear.
Thank you. Just a point on TikTok, it would be absolutely wonderful to do more on TikTok because we are local government, there are some restrictions with the use of TikTok, but that's when we lean into some of our partners. Yeah.
Has there been consideration into using sponsored videos of creators on TikTok or YouTube Shorts or anything like that to attract potentially young people? Because places like Skegness, it's actually a lot of elderly people who visit, but it's great for young people as well. You can go to Butlins and get pissed up, and it used to be Skeg Thursdays. I remember it being £1 for a pint, which just sounds too good to be true. So things like that for young people using TikTok sponsorship, is that being done? Because I think that's probably a missed opportunity if not.
There are various things that we're looking at, yes, and in terms of that channel, I suppose the main thing that we're doing at the moment is the influencer content, and we're able to sort of hone in on specific markets that way. Our core audience, I suppose, when we look at our analytics and our visitor data, with a limited budget, we have to look at where we get the most bang for our buck, really. So in terms of our target market for our marketing at the moment, it's that slightly older demographic, but we would lean into our partners in districts as well and elsewhere to amplify their content on other market segments.
Thank you. Councillor Overton.
Thank you. I've just been checking the website again, which is really nice. I like the dates, the events coming up, nice calendar. I do declare an interest because we do have 2 holiday businesses, and we do we use that calendar to encourage people to come. When we see there's a gap in the bookings, we say, we put that out, come and see this event or that event. So it is very useful. So we're putting it to good use. I wonder if you've got a way of measuring how much business you've actually been able to bring in, because is there a way of, obviously ours and all the other businesses ask customers where they heard about us and, what made them come. I don't know if you've got some of that data, because you did talk about click-throughs, but actually, it would be good to have some actual figures of money that's been brought in, because it's good to bring people, but we also, as we said before, I've talked to you before about encouraging them to spend more while they're here.
Yes, definitely. We have something called the STEAM data, which is sort of our annual figures, but we don't get those So the 2024 figures sort of arrived in about May of this year. So you've always got that sort of lag between, you know, when you actually see the figures for the previous year. And it some businesses are very good at telling us the state of business, what's working, what isn't. Some of them are more reluctant, and it's not that we're, you know, we want to know in terms of exactly the reasons that you're asking, in terms of planning and knowing what works and what doesn't. So it would be enormously helpful if businesses would supply us with more information. They're getting much better, but a bit of a way to go.
Thank you. And Councillor East.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, ladies. I was just looking at page 80 where we talk about encouraging more hotel development. I just wondered whether you felt the Airbnb market was a positive or negative on growth.
We did do some research before, must have been about 2019, into the Airbnb market, because it is slightly under the radar, so it is quite difficult to establish what actually is there. And I must admit, I was surprised that it was more, much more of it than I knew about, which was a little bit unnerving. I think since lockdown, perhaps we haven't done the amount of research on that we were planning to take it to another level. Hayley, do you want to?
Just to add to that as well, I think what Airbnb does is it makes the county more accessible. And if we think about when I go out to businesses and I talk about what we do within these roles, I always talk about the five main reasons that our jobs exist, I suppose, really, is to get people here, to get them staying for longer, spending more, coming back and telling their friends. And if accessibility to more, I guess, entry-level accommodation is what Airbnb does to a certain extent. So if that plays a part in that sort of, I guess, that equation, then I think it's got good, positive elements as well as some things that we need to look at. But in terms of making the county more accessible to visitors, I think it has a role to play, and it's not going away either, is it? So I think we need to embrace the positives and then look to what we can do to mitigate the challenges.
Councillor Corey, and then on to Overton.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a point of clarification. I'm sure that you will join with me in encouraging all those who use Visit Lincolnshire to find hospitality venues, to enjoy hospitality in Lincolnshire, to please drink responsibly.
I always do, and I hope you do too. So, Councillor Overton.
Thank you. The other question I was going to ask was about the key selling points of Lincolnshire. I think we used to say open, big skies, meaning space, rural countryside, an attractive area with historic places and events set in that. If that is our key selling points, how is that impacted by massive solar developments on open farmland? Thank you.
I mean, definitely nature, what we're now sort of calling nature tourism, because it sort of parcels up that walking, that cycling, bird watching, nature reserves, the countryside generally, is a very important product, as is the heritage. And that, we've just been doing some copy recently, and that whole big skies, big beaches, big, it's that sense of scale and that openness and that sense of freedom that you don't find everywhere. Obviously, is something that we feel should be protected, and is very important to our offer.
Are there any more questions? Vice Chair?
Thank you. So this year, Mablethorpe and Skegness has had a dramatic fall in visitors. And I get this from speaking to local small businesses. It's not just a statistic which is made up. Every small business you speak to, there's been a drop-off from last year. And because of this, they are struggling. Now, I think this is due to not just what we're doing. It's not nothing to do with us. It's the economic climate. People have less money, food prices, energy prices, etc. I want to know what we are doing differently to promote our area, because a lot of people I speak to, sometimes they go on 3-4 visits a year to destinations around the coast. Because of money limitations, they're now choosing just to go to one location. So what are we doing? I think really what we need to be doing is we need to be looking at our competition, which is the Visit Yorkshire, Scarborough, Blackpool, etc. What are we doing to bring people from around the country to our coastal towns? Thank you.
I mean, I think it's not just a problem in Lincolnshire, it's across England. We're a member of the Coastal Tourism Academy, and we meet with them regularly, and they are reporting exactly the same. Not that that's that reassuring. In my sort of long years of being in tourism, holidays are the first thing to go when money is tight, and it also affects people sometimes who actually have got money and are able to, but it's that sense of anxiety and nervousness. People suddenly kind of hunker down and stop spending. That's very typical. So sometimes people are still coming away, but they're coming for a shorter length of time and they're spending less. So, they're quite, they're very careful with their money. Margins very tight. People are booking at the very last minute. So all things that are extremely difficult for the industry to cope with. I think the marketing plan that we've got, which has already started, but will run on through this summer and into the autumn, is our way of, we've got to do something, and and obviously I hope it will be a success. But there's a sort of a certain level where is it almost holding the line? It's quite difficult to kind of go against that feeling that people have, and that we're not going to have a holiday this year, or we're just going to do days out, and those sorts of kind of mood changes, which traditionally do happen in the tourist industry. So it's a difficult one, but the marketing campaign is something where we are doing extra, and it's radio, it's print, it's digital. So we're using a variety of options, appealing to our main markets, the 50-plus market, but also the families with young children, and obviously we can report back, but obviously we're hoping that that's going to be a success.
I think because those types of communities around the coastal areas are quite deprived anyway, they rely heavily on the tourism industry, and when that industry goes, they've got nothing. And I speak to businesses and they say, we're just hoping and praying that the 6 weeks holiday is going to be busy. The fact that they have to rely on 6 weeks of trade just to survive, which they thought they would never see in their lives. But yeah, anything we can really do to help those communities, because, people around those areas, they do like to work, they do like to do things, they don't want to be on benefits, and they don't want to be, seen as these scroungers who don't want to work. They want to work, but I think we need to kind of help them, and anything we can do. I mean, it's a national problem. I think we have a change of government who are not necessarily the most pro-business, small business, and hopefully we need to combat that with something. We need to fight back, otherwise we're going to see a lot of small businesses closing around those coastal towns.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you know, hopefully we have got it in hand, and we used to do an update to councillors on a regular basis, so we can put the results of the work we're doing into that, so that you get some feedback fairly immediately as to how it's working, if you would like. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? No, we will move the proposal. I move that the committee formally notes the County Council's ongoing strategic role in supporting Lincolnshire's visitor economy and recognises the importance of maintaining stability, leadership and coordination across the sector during this period of transition. I move the committee acknowledges the quality and strategic value of the Council's visitlincolnshire.com platform in promoting the county as a visitor destination and its crucial role in showcasing local attractions, events and businesses. I move that the impressive booking conversion rate of 16.4% achieved via visitlincolnshire.com during 2024 be noted, and encourages all members to actively support the Council's summer tourism marketing campaign by following, sharing and amplifying Visit Lincolnshire's social media content across their own platforms and championing local tourism businesses in their divisions, helping to raise visibility and boost engagement at the community level. Lastly, I ask that our comments from today's discussion be cascaded across relevant teams and shared with the portfolio holder for their information and relevant actioning. Do we have a raise of hands for agreement? Oh, is that a question, Councillor Overton?
Was it the booking rate that was 16% or the click-through rate? Thanks.
Booking conversion rate of 16.4%, is that correct?
It's the click-through rate to a booking. So that could be, but that booking could be downloading a map, could be booking an event, it could be booking some accommodation, but it's actually that they did something.
Is that gone up?
Sorry? It was 16.4% in 2024. The last quarter, which was April to June of this year, it was 17.4, I think. So it does go down in the winter, but if I can keep it at that sort of, those sorts of teens, then very, very happy.
Okay, on to the vote for that proposal, if everyone's okay. Raise of hands for agreement. It's unanimous. And on to the next item of the agenda. Thank you. The Growth Scrutiny Committee Work Programme. This is the last item on today's agenda, and the report can be found on pages 87 to 92 of the agenda pack. This item enables the committee to comment on the content of its work programme. The report will be presented by Chiara Hatzianu, the Scrutiny Officer. Our actions are to review the work programme and highlight any additional scrutiny activity which could be included for consideration in the work programme. Over to you, Ms. Hatzianu.
Thank you very much, Chairman. So I'm going to take the report as read, and I'm only going to highlight any changes from the published versions, from the published iteration of the work programme. So we've got two changes to be reported today. First one being on our next meeting, which is on the 9th of September 2025. Item 1, procurement reforms, update and proposed commercial strategy, has now been revisited. The element of the commercial strategy has been pushed back a little bit, and therefore this is going to be a scrutiny report on procurement reforms update. In addition, we have managed to secure a date for the Q3 performance indicators, and that will be in our meeting on the 24th of March. In addition to these changes, any other items that have been requested in today's meeting or any discussions about possible items will be reflected again in the next iteration of the work programme. And with that, I welcome any questions or any further suggestions. Thank you.
Any questions or suggestions? No? Okay. Thank you for the presentation. And to the suggested proposal, I move that the that we note the report and approve the existing work programme as detailed in pages 87 to 92. Do we have a raise of hands for agreement? That's unanimous. Thank you. And with that, I call an end to the meeting. Thank you everybody for your attendance and your comments.